You can't hit me when I say something smart.
It's still too far.
I will get out of the way.
But the problem is, I get comments like this question that came up the other day, and it was a legitimate question. You can always tell when somebody's kind of new to the financial world. They actually said, how can you ever be financially free if you borrow millions and don't pay it back? I mean, the way the question was formulated was, if you borrow millions and don't sell the properties to pay it back, how are you ever financially free? So we're doing this live together in Vegas. We're wondering how the Wi-Fi is going to work. So bear with us and let us know in the chat if it's working. You don't have to give us exact numbers, but let's go through how much debt are we in, Matt? So a rounding number, 10 million, 20 million?
Eight figures.
Eight figures. Okay, so it's in the 10 to
It's
100 range somewhere.
Yes.
And Mike,
The amount of debt that I am in is a rounding error for you.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I guess I don't keep track of I just did my net worth statement, but so I would guess that my debt is probably, oh geez, I don't even know. I mean, I know I'm in over $1 million worth of debt, but I'd have to do the math to figure it out.
okay. So 8 figures, 7 figures, I owe 1.8 million. And the only reason I know why I owe that is I did a personal financial statement to qualify for a loan not too long ago. And I don't know about Matt, because the way you said it, but I'm pretty sure that Mike and I wish we owed more.
Oh yeah.
Right. My kind of debt, sure. I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's because of what the debt is, and I think the key is that, do you care if you have a $3,000 a month car payment if somebody else is using your car a little bit and you still get to drive it and you get to use it for free? Like it's because somebody else is paying down that debt.
Yeah, I've always tried to come up with an analogy of something really simple. Like if you could buy a truck trailer, like a semi trailer, and park it on the side of the road, and it cost you $1,000 a month to own the trailer. You were paying $1,000 a month, but somebody paid you $2,000 a month to put a picture on the side.
Right, exactly.
How many trailers would you buy?
As many as I could buy.
We would get debt to buy the trailers, right? And so that's the way we look at rentals. We've all chosen that asset class to buy. I know some people invest in stocks and use margin, something I don't understand well enough to actually do. And then I hear the nightmare stories of margins being called. The 30-year fixed rate debt on a property doesn't get called.
Sure. Which
also lines up with another thing that a lot of newer investors will say is, what if the bank calls your loan?
Yeah.
Because they've heard Dave Ramsey talk about, I was 26, I owed a couple million, and all of a sudden the bank said, give it all now, or you fail and you file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And so people think that's how it works.
Yeah. Yep. Well, so what's really interesting is my bank, the one that I have a big relationship with, just announced this last week that they're merging with another bank. So I'm very interested just to kind of see how that goes, because I don't know if it affects the loan product that I created with that bank. I don't know if they say, hey, we're not going to do those. We're not going to do those loans anymore. I don't know if they look at it and say, hey, we need to get more conservative. We need to taper back, or we need to shut him down, and dial back the amount of loans that we're giving him. So yeah, I mean, for right now, it's status quo. They've said that nothing changes, but I actually go into the bank to meet with some of the executive team just to have a conversation with them, because I'm not massive. I'm decent size when it comes to dollar amount, but I'm far larger on the number of transactions. I have, almost 40 mortgages. And so they don't have many customers with 40 mortgages. They might have a guy that has a $10 million mortgage, but they don't, but they don't have somebody that has 40 different notes. So
for the brand new investor that hears somebody say, well, I have 40 mortgages, like I'm 5, because I get this question as well. You have a salary, you earn money at a job right now, because you missed 45,615 by a couple of days now.
I did. Yep.
Right. So
I did.
I'm very sorry for that. I've had taps queued up on my phone.
Yeah.
But your income from your job can only qualify you for so much money. How do you get more than one mortgage or 2 mortgages? Like the average person thinks, once I get there, I'm kind of done because I don't make more money. There you go.
So basically how that works is it's essentially based on the income that I have coming from the properties and my income from my W-2. And so as you grow your portfolio, they start to look at season. So every bank does it differently, but some people can say, well, if it's been 6 months, it's a seasoned property, or if it's a year, it's been a seasoned property, and they can count a percentage of the rent. And so then they just continue to do that as you grow your portfolio. They continue to look at that and say, this is how much money we're willing to lend because you have this much income. And so then it shows up on the tax return. But then they actually start doing it kind of ad hoc without the tax return, because they're like, yeah, at this point, this is a business. You own the property, you're getting rent, you're a proven operator. This is where I'm really stressing the operator term. We started that about 6 months ago, because as I talked to banks, I had to differentiate myself as an investor and an operator, because they have so many investors that get in and invest, but then they don't manage the business. They basically give it to somebody else to manage. And they'll have a worse experience with somebody that hands off the business to somebody else versus somebody that's the operator themselves, doing all that work in the business daily and understand all the profit and loss P&L, as well as the projects that are going through the process. So yeah, as you grow as a landlord, they'll start looking and giving you credit for those rents towards your income.
Right. That's the part a lot of people are missing, is when you start out, they don't want to look at the rental income and say, okay, so that's in your debt to income ratio, because you're not proven. You haven't said,
correct,
I can find a tenant, screen a tenant, place a tenant, maintain a property, file all my taxes correctly, and run a business for a year or two. But after those first 2 years, and you have rental income coming in, they'll look at 75% of that rental income. So as long as you're buying properties that are going to cash flow.
Yeah.
And some lenders will want 3 months remaining on leases. So that makes sometimes short-term rentals not as attractive to them, or month-to-month leases not as attractive to them.
Yeah. What I continue to find amazing is the differences between banks, what one requires versus what one doesn't require.
Sure.
So mine never looks at leases, doesn't care. They believe that I'm a great operator, that I take care of it. They also know that I buy value add properties. So I'll buy something that has naturally much lower rents. And then they basically look at it and they say, listen, you're going to report this on your PFS eventually, your personal financial statement, which sucks. I actually have to do mine for this year. And it is an absolute effing nightmare to put that together when you have the amount of assets. Boo-hoo, Crimea River. But tons of time. And thank God for the amazing Mrs. Lumberjack, because she'll be doing all that work.
We found that out last night. Yeah. You buy the properties and you're like, hey, Ashley, I've got more work for you.
Yeah, I'm like,
you've got more work for you. Good job.
Throw it over the fence. But it's amazing how different banks can be. And so it really is important. What I've been shocked by most in new investors' journeys is that they don't spend significant time. They spend 100 to 1 looking for a deal versus looking for a bank. And it should be much closer to like, an 80-20 rule, 60-40 rule. It's got to be a whole lot better than it is. I love your strategy for newer investors, where you reach out to a bunch of different banks. And what you'll start to find is when somebody sees that you operate well, when somebody sees that your debt is strong, when somebody sees you never have late payments, they'll start to give you more favorable terms.
They start giving you their like a buyer, their best and final start, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. And so we still shop. I have the relationship with my bank. I still let them know, I'm not really happy with that number. And they'll actually go and they'll work with the senior lender and have a conversation with them and say, hey, listen, he's going to take this business elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So Steve Dow, I've done a deal with Velocity. That was a fantastic experience. The only reason I don't do every deal with Velocity is because cost of money is higher with Velocity, understandably so. But transaction speed, transaction velocity is phenomenal with them. My experience with Steve Dow and his team was nothing short of spectacular.
And you did the 50-40-10.
I did a 50-40-10, and that transaction has just worked out just awesome. It's been a great experience so far.
Here's a good question. There's some good questions, but this is one that caught my eye from Afro Capitalist. Howdy. Hey guys, can rental tax benefits offset W-2 taxes?
You can for me.
Yeah.
because I make under the amount of money that you do.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the exact number is, if it's 150,000 or something like that, but if you make under a certain dollar amount a year, I think it's 150,000, you can take some of the leftover benefits of the rental tax breaks and apply them to your regular W-2 income. So as a law enforcement officer, I make about $120,000 a year. But on paper, my CPA gets it to where I only make $80,000 a year because of all the leftover tax breaks from my from my rental properties being applied to my regular job. But at some point you cross over that threshold and it doesn't work anymore.
And then you need the real estate professional
designation
to kick in for your spouse, probably, because if you're making that much, you're not going to work more in real estate than you are at your W-2. So there's a lot of tricky laws to it, but yes, it's possible to have it affect your W-2 income as well.
Yeah, coming up on tax season, everybody should do themselves a favor. I've got a great deal for DIY cost seg. 1,000 lumber is my cheat code for those guys. 1,000 lumber. They will give you a free 15-minute consultation on Calendly. You can go right to DIYcostseg.com. They will give you a free 15-minute consultation, and they will tell you, hey, give me some of the general numbers, and they'll tell you this is going to make an impact on your taxes or it isn't. The key that most people don't understand is that you pay for that cost segregation study one time. And so it's $450, I think, with my discount code. It's like $450, but that $450 one-time fee, it allows you to recognize those deductions over a 5, 7, or 27.5 year process, and you only pay that fee once. And so I would absolutely talk. It doesn't mean it works for everybody, i.e. you definitely should have that conversation with them. But I found them to be very honest when I had that conversation with them and say, okay, well, so what is this really going to mean to me? And when I saw the numbers, it was nuts. And that was even before we did the real estate professional piece. So it's worth at least the 15-minute call to see, hey, can this save me a bunch of money on my taxes?
Right. And the really important thing there is to understand that something like a cost segregation study is unique to your situation and your goals and your timeline. So if you have a W-2 where you're making a good living and that cost segregation can significantly impact you this year, most people would say, well, just do that. It sounds like numbers line up, do it. But is it worth the 25% of your depreciation you do not get anymore?
Yes.
For the remainder of the depreciation schedule on that property? So that's why you want to talk to a tax pro to figure out what's the benefit now, but what's the cost? Because there's always a cost.
Yep. To dovetail into that, the other piece of that too is absolutely talk to a tax professional. Absolutely 100%. I have the conversation with them first. I then talk to my tax guy. Excuse me. And then the other piece to it too is it depends on what your strategy is. If your strategy is add one rental property and then I'm kind of done, or a couple, then you probably don't really need that because you'll take the depreciation over 27.5 years.
Exactly why I haven't done a cost segregation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so if you're looking to always be able to pull from that piece, that's where I think it's really important that, again, I think people focus far too much on the buy. They need to be focusing a lot more time on getting your house right from a tax and cost segregation perspective, making sure that you have the right banker in place, and that you have at least your group of lenders that you're going to talk to, like Dion does. I know that I've gotten to a point with my bank where their best and final is up front in the beginning. And so if I don't love the number, I just tell them I don't love the number. And then I go talk to a couple of other banks and I come back to them and say, this is what I can get. And if you can't do it, I get it.
So normally when we do a video like this, the idea is to jump right into the topic. And I wanted to talk about, can you be financially free while in debt? We cleared that up by saying we're in debt. We'd be more financially free if we were more in debt. And that's a concept that a lot of people don't really get because we think of debt and there's the three tiers of people when it comes to money, right? We have poor people who go into bad debt on things. So the big TV, the family trips. We have the middle class who go into bad debt on the wrong things. They buy a big house. They get student loan debt. They go into debt on things that aren't going to always generate income. A house can be an investment, but it's like Schrodinger's cat. Until you look at the numbers, you don't know if it's an asset or a liability.
Yeah. And
then you have the wealthy people who, the more good debt they get into, the more wealth and income they actually have. And so, yes, you can absolutely be financially free while you're in debt. And when it comes to the question of how do you pay off that debt, I don't care. if the debt's paid off. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I would do 1,000-year mortgages because having a paid off property means nothing. Stop paying your property taxes and tell me who owns your property.
Exactly.
So you're always going to be paying for your property. But if your tenants are paying principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and repairs and maintenance in the future, and you're profiting, the debt's just part of the equation that doesn't have to be paid off. You're not more comfortable. You are, like Wandering Doc said here, he's got about 660,000 in debt. He wishes he wants to hit 1 million.
Yeah.
Totally good at that. And I say he, Wandering Doc. I don't know if you're a guy, girl, let me know.
He is.
Is he? Okay,
He
good.
is.
I haven't.
Yep.
There you go. At 1 million, you'll have more cash flow. So that's why you're on the side of understanding more good debt means more financial freedom.
Yeah.
Having it paid off isn't going to change that, because the money that you take, that you pay it down, could have created more good debt, buying more assets. So there is a time in your investing career where you might go into debt pay down mode, but it's not because that's how you get financial freedom. You'll have financial freedom and you stabilize there. You say, Wandering Doc, you're at about 50% loan to value. So that's a very safe position to be in, especially in an asset like real estate. If you're in a 50% loan to value with a margin on stocks, because I don't know anything about that. I don't know if 5% or 100% is good or bad.
Well, if you're not paying on margin, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not buying on margin, whatever the stock costs, you're not leveraging debt. And that's the purpose is, if you're a new investor, for every $3.50 you put down, you get $100,000 worth of leverage, or $96,500 worth of leverage. And that's the beauty of real estate. Yeah,
you have a super chat. We should
I do
on your channel there.
I do. We have a couple. Robert Farinelli. Good morning, sir. Hopefully it's not too cold for you out in Siberia. Dion will come out. It just has to be, I think, 40 degrees warmer. But he's excited to come out. And then Phil Nealon, thanks for the vacation live show. Yeah, it's a blast. We got so we had talked about it kind of as the REI Avengers coming together and doing stuff, and Mike was sadly busy, but we got to spend together some time last night, hang out. They got to see how crazy the kids were, and got to hang out with Mike's son. So it was a lot of fun. We had we just hung out and kind of talked life, and thankfully none of it was recorded, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was a good
Those
time.
videos are coming soon.
Hidden camera videos. And All Nighter Hider, I see you there. Thanks so much for coming out. Jeff M. Yeah, so Zub was just crazy busy, and so he couldn't make it. But obviously we the REI Avengers, we miss not having him here. And
we missed the only guy brave enough to wear a turtleneck. All right. The rest of us just can't pull it off, we needed him.
And then let's see, Jeff M. You three are so inspirational. I'm very financially illiterate, but watching y'all makes me realize how little I know about real estate. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think that man, it's a lot. As I put together the course, I was talking to Mike about it, and I just said, because he's been watching a lot of stuff and doing all the editing. He's done a phenomenal job. You guys are in for a real treat, because it's far more entertaining to watch it now that he's touched it and edited it. And so we were talking about it, and I was just like, is this useful? And he goes, dude, I feel like I'm drinking through a fire hose. And I kind of had he gave me perspective, because I said, I'm cramming 20 years of experience into 8 hours or 9 hours. And so there is so much information there, and kind of what I'm looking forward to working with people in the boot camp and in the course is getting feedback of what more we can add to it to make it even better. So I appreciate you saying that, Jeff. And like I said, I'm super excited. There's going to be some amazing announcements coming this week about my course. And so you guys just stay tuned.
Yeah, my biggest concern is I'm going through the course and I'm watching the videos, and Matt is getting into a thesis level, like PhD level doctorate speech on knob and tube wiring. And I'm like, Matt, there's the chance someone here might just fall asleep there. And I was like, you need to make an intro video that says to the audience, hey, this might not all apply to you. It's okay to skip over this specific section, this 10-minute thing on this particular, it might not even be in your area. So don't feel bad. Because I was like, bro, there's so much information here. I am overwhelmed.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And even trying to break it down, it's like, I want to get, kind of 30,000 foot in the description and then kind of 10,000 foot. But if I went deeper, it'd be, 100 hours. And so I think that that's kind of what we're trying to do in the course, is really make this something that investors can lean on. We're going to bring in pros like roofers. We're going to bring in siding guys. We're going to bring in all of the trades, so you guys can have real interaction with them. They're not trying to sell you anything because they're obviously not in your area. So they'll be able to spend time with us, answering your questions, making sure that when you're getting quotes, that you're doing it based on what a real expert's telling you, how it's actually done. And so I'm just so super excited to hear the stories of people kind of getting their bacon saved, because I can tell you, the first few years I was in it, I know I overpaid for stuff. I know I overpaid, and it's painful now, because I don't know that I could have avoided it, but hopefully my nightmare will be a win for you guys.
Well, it's one of the really important things with studying your asset class and your strategy before you take action. That's the hard part, because then we get stuck in studying mode and we never take action.
Agreed. Yeah.
But a lot of us do what I did. In the very beginning, I looked at the agent that I knew as a mentor. And I thought, this guy's got 30 rentals. He's an investor. He's financially free. He has 19 agents working for him. He knows what he's doing. He has decades of experience. Had I purchased the first couple of deals he had me make offers on, I would have went bankrupt, because he had never invested with a mortgage. He had never invested in small multifamily. He didn't understand, like the question here that we have coming up, the difference between cash flow and yield. Right? Cash flow sounds great, but if the yield isn't there, it could be a bad investment. You can have a lot of cash flow on a property and it still be a bad deal. Like if I said something really simple, like if you have $5,000 a month coming in from one property, that must be a good deal if it's profit. But if it cost you $10 billion to buy it, they would say that's a dumb use of your money. Right. So you have to know all of the numbers. And so the question is, would you ever buy a property that meets your cash flow criteria, but not your yield criteria?
I think that's probably different for each individual. So for instance, Matt talks a lot about best use of capital, where he's really heavily focused in on that yield. But I've also heard Dion throw the idea around of, maybe it would be better to pay some properties off. And even though I technically have more money wrapped up in that deal, just as long as I get the extra cash flow, I can actually make those numbers work. So that, I feel like that's a question specific to the individual.
I think it comes down to their timeline.
Yeah.
If you're in growth phase, never.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. Once you're in stabilized phase and you're not trying to grow, I haven't done it yet. I talk about it because I've thought about it. But yes, paying down debt or just paying all cash for a property that adds to your cash flow but doesn't get you your yield is an option. But if you're in growth mode, that's, I don't want to say murder, but death to your plan. It's going to add decades to your financial freedom journey, where it's always important to make sure you're not comparing year 10 or 12 to year 1.
Yeah. One of the things that we could probably talk about, since the three of us are here and we're still doing our homework daily, the crash of properties. I'm shopping out here, and if it's under median home price, it's not staying on the market. It's flying off. The only part of the market that's down is the high end part of the market and the move up buyer. It's not the core where most of us live,
Certainly where rental properties are.
Yeah.
If you're buying rental properties that are luxury and they're not on the beach in Miami, you're probably not long for this world.
We have, just in my market this week, there was a house, a fourplex that came on. Excuse me, it's the most expensive fourplex I've ever seen in our market ever. And I think they had 30 people at the open house yesterday. And this place is not nice.
Right. So a lot of people are talking about the real estate crash, and there's a big difference in the numbers. When we talk about something like foreclosures are up 400%.
Yeah.
They're still below normal, right? But they're just increased from a really small number, right? It's from a very small number. So when you look at rentals or properties and those high end changes happen, so a 1.9 million going for 1.5 is a huge drop.
Yeah.
Right. But the 500,000 is now going for 550.
Right.
But it still looks like the market dropped because the larger, like more expensive property had the bigger drop. Rents are the same. So if we track rents since we started tracking the data, right, a century of data. So it's not like we've got 1,000 years, but we have 100 years. Rents have never gone down market wide in a 5-year period. There's been some times where it went flat, right? But if you look at that trend, in 2009, it looks like rents went down, even though they went up. It's because in the high-end Class A apartments, rents dipped. And since it's such a higher number, that impact made it look like the market went down, even though in Class C and D properties, we saw rent increases in 2009. But somebody will look at the chart and go, oh, look, there's a dip.
Right.
And it's because that luxury impact.
The only people that are discounting rents are the people that are at $3,000 for 2 bedrooms in small towns. And it's because their cost model is stupid. And those are the people, it's the big multifamilies, like we've been saying for a year and a half. It's the big multifamily operators that are going to be the ones that get hurt. Like I'm still seeing across my portfolio, rents are up. Admittedly, we had one rent go down, and it's because we transitioned it from a market apartment to a Section 8 housing apartment. And so they pay $100 in for that particular unit. They pay $100 less than what I last was getting. But we took the tenant because it was a unique situation. We just said it's $100. It's fine. But it's not something that we're starving. And I'm still actively going through the transition of apartments and trying to get more into Section 8. And so I think this month, I believe in January, I think we'll hit 18. And so that's from 2 years ago of 0. And so we're at 18 now, and the goal is to get to 40. So we're charging towards it.
So as far as rents coming down, like to Dion's point, how apartments, there's just so many units and oftentimes they're priced so high. When there's movement in apartments, it's an imbalance in the rest of the market. So yeah, you can look at a chart that says, oh, rental prices or rental values are coming down, but it's only in apartments and it's only in Class A luxury or maybe top tier stuff. And then if you pull all that data out and just look at single family homes are still increasing and still increasing at rates that I would consider honestly unhealthy long term. Like they need to slow down a little bit. But that's the difference between watching guys who look at charts and pull up news articles and expose your negativity bias, and they don't actually invest. They don't actually talk to people who really invest and own units. They don't own any units themselves. So all they're looking at is the data that says, oh, rents are coming down. Well, that's not good for investors. Well, yeah, if it was true, that's not good for investors. I recently did a video debunking reventure consulting. And in this video where I talked about rents coming down, I talked about what Zuber with his 200 units have told me, what Matt with his 140, Dion with 16, me with 10, my mentor Mark with 25, my friend Dominic with 67, Cody and Christian with over 100, and Dana, the CEO of Hemlane, who manages 18,500 rental properties across the nation. I mean, nobody has a single rental for the entire year that has been re-leased at less than what it was previously leased for. No one. But if you read the scary headlines on the articles, you would think the end of the world's happening. But here's what the actual movers are doing on the ground, the people who actually operate in the business. Completely different experience.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough information because I saw 3 thumbnails that said rents are coming down. I'm going to go
by guys who don't own any real estate, anything. They don't know. They don't own anything.
Right. Are there any questions on your live you'd like to get to?
So the Flick channel, good to have you here. Financial literacy is key is what that stands for. Yield all the way, but I'm trying to grow. And that's exactly right. That's exactly what Dion's point is, and what we talk about all the time is when you're looking for that yield, you're not looking for principal pay down. You're looking for that yield. You're looking for the next asset that's going to create more cash flow for you. And then you get to a point where you get of size, and then you can start making the decision of recycling capital or not recycling capital, and you're doing cash out refis and things like that. The cool thing is that as you build, it's a business. As you build your business, you really get the choice of how you want to build that business. And everybody's strategy can be different because it's based on what their goals are. Age is certainly a component of it. I started really young investing in real estate in my early 20s. And so I've always been in return on capital, cash, recycling cash, growing. And then it's going to get to a certain point where I don't know how much longer I'll buy deals. I just don't know. The only goal that I have for every deal that I do is I buy the next deal that's great. That's the only criteria that I have.
We found out last night Matt lost a couple of bets where he was talking with Mrs. Lumberjack and I think an agent.
Yes.
Right. I got part of the story.
At a closing attorney.
At a closing attorney.
Yeah.
And Matt saying, hey, we're done for a year or 6 months or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they were back in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So
They were back actually in 6 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. It was not my pride. It was not my finest moment. But it was kind of funny because the closing attorney wanted to throw some salt on it because basically we bet my wife and her bet me that if we would close on something in the next 60 days, that we would, that I would have to buy them dinner. And I said, sure, that's fine. And then the closing attorney thought it was funny at the closing table where she was kind of needling me a little bit and said, hey, so how do you feel about having to buy us dinner? And then I showed her that I'll make $12,000 on that property and I'd be happy to buy her whatever dinner she wants.
right.
But
It's a fair trade.
It did. When I saw the deal, I was like, this better be, I told my agent, I said, this better be a really good deal because it's going to cost me like a $500 dinner. So
it better be a good. My agent reached out to me last night and said, hey, I want to send you, since you're in Vegas, to Mastro's for dinner. And I was like, okay, that's great. And so he's making the reservation and everything. I looked at the menu and I was like, I better buy a deal.
Yeah.
It's good motivation.
Hey, Jay, do you hear that? You know what his agent did for him? Yeah, that's all I'm saying, Jay.
So do you send Jay a bunch of other work outside of yours?
I do.
Okay, so
I do.
That accounts for a lot too.
Yep, I do. But at the same time too, I did. I don't know. In the last 18 months, I think I've done 11 deals with him. So
18 months, I've done one.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's
Jay, you need to step your game up. Jay.
Here's a question from Monica. With a very simple answer and then a longer answer to answer the second question. First one is, I got an offer on an Airbnb, and I'm going to leave out some of the details here. First, you have a balloon payment in 10 years. So that's a deal breaker for me. I do fixed rate debt only, no matter what. I don't care. I don't want to think about what's going to happen in 10 years. It's fire and forget mortgages. So that would be a deal breaker for me. I know people have done balloon payments on some of your stuff in the past, but then in the last year, you switched to fixed rate debt as much as possible.
Yeah, so I did. So in some cases, I didn't feel like it made sense for me to move the mortgage because I'd owned it for long. So I don't gap debt, 3-year, 5-year, I don't love right now. 7, I would do it for the right deal. 10, if I'm not paying a premium for it, I would probably do 10. And because that's me, I have debt that is expiring in the next 18 months. That debt will go from 4 to, let's say it goes to 7 or 8. I still make money on that property.
Right. So you have a portfolio that can handle an increase in those 10 years.
Correct.
So I don't want to have to think that way. The other thing here is you say it would rent for $2,500 as a long-term rental and the mortgage would be $3,000. And if you're setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy of 15%, you're at about $1,000 loss a month on a long-term rental.
Yep.
So that version of the question, you would be okay with the balloon payment at 10 years if it was the right deal without a premium.
Right.
I wouldn't, and neither one of us would do
No
long-term rental loss because it's going to make sense as an Airbnb. Because here's the follow-up question that almost becomes irrelevant when you think of that being the deal breaker. I think the Airbnb market is changing.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? So if it was on the uptrend, I still wouldn't do a mortgage that's going to be a loss as a long-term rental. I might look at break even. I don't need to get the cash flow yield if I'm gambling. That's what it is on Airbnb. Your municipality, HOA, the state, something can happen where short-term rental laws change, and now you are long-term rental, which hits you in two ways. You're going to carry an alligator, you're going to lose money, or if you go to sell it, and now everyone knows you can't buy it and make sense with the numbers as a short-term rental, you're going to take a loss on the sale as well. So that's not a deal I think I would put more thought into.
Yeah, that deal sounds scary. I mean, I think we're heading into an opportunity. So I think we're heading into a buying opportunity. I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as everybody else thinks it is. Certainly not the crashers. I still believe that there's going to be a 10 to 20% correction in the national median home price. I think that that's going to take time. I think it's going to take till the end of 2024 in all likelihood. Certainly at least 10% by the end of 2024, so I can get Zuber's dollar. But yeah, I think
I have my dollar with
oh, that's right.
but we're going to make a separate video.
We have to, yeah,
fully
sure.
explain that.
But I think that I never, ever want to do a deal based on appreciation. I never want to do a deal based on it not working as a long-term rental, because when the economy shifts and you start seeing job losses, STRs are going to be the first thing that gets hit. It's not going to be where they live. It's going to be where they vacation. And so while the airlines have lived off of crazy, everything opening up, that's going to slow down, and then STRs are going to get hit. Even in the area, even with looking for one in Vegas, they have shows, they have conferences, they have all that stuff here that always will help drive that market. It's not a lot of vacation stuff. And that's why even a lot of the Airbnb prices are somewhat inflated in this market, is because it's business travelers. It's not family travelers. So yeah, I'm just not a fan of an LTR, that a long-term rental that I'm writing a check for on a monthly basis. That would be a major no for me. No matter how much possible appreciation it has, no matter how strong the rest of my portfolio is. One of the things, as you guys get bigger and as you get to a higher number of mortgages, is these banks will start to look at you as a global with something called a global servicing ratio, which is if your debt is, $10,000 a month, let's say, they want to see that you're making a minimum of $12,000 a month. If you have one property that's taking $1,000 a month out of that, you can be in trouble. And so you want to start showing good and proper financial practices as you continue to grow your portfolio, because they would look at that and they would say, okay, so you're taking on an asset that doesn't perform in all markets. That's a scary thing.
We have a question there on yours. I mean, we may want to scroll up. I don't know.
Do we?
Want to make sure we're getting to the questions on your live too.
Yes.
While you're looking, I'll cover one really quick that maybe
Okay.
you guys have an answer for, because I'll understand the question once you start giving your explanation. Sean, howdy. Thoughts on 2-1 buy downs? Is it a good product?
On what?
Yeah, see, that's why. Okay, I don't feel so stupid.
Yeah, I was sitting here like, I don't. This is their question. 2-1 buy down.
Well, yeah. So Sean, give us what are you referring to? 2-for-1 buy downs? Is that 2 points for a 1% off the?
While Sean is
rate?
clarifying,
There you go.
I'm going to tell you BF's question. So BF says you can't find a positive cash flow property today with interest rates being so high. BF, you're right, man. It's really tough right now. It's very hard. If you were running your numbers the exact same way you were 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, where interest rates were 3%, 3.5%, 4%. I have a lot of mortgages with that. My cash flow was substantially better. However, there are still opportunities. Let me explain to you. So Marina, my girlfriend, just closed on the 500.
I'm sorry, what?
He stuttered. Had to fix his word. I was like,
oh, she's going to be watching this. I'm going to get roasted. I got just trying to enjoy a vacation.
Half the people went, wait, that sounds like a girl's name.
Anyways, she just closed on a $500,000 house in the Seattle area. Okay, it's extremely expensive market. Historically, one of the hottest markets in the country. Very hard to get cash flowing deals. It's even harder with interest rates going up. But because everybody right now is simultaneously saying it's a sucky time to buy, 84% of buyers say it's a bad time to buy, all of your competition has evaporated. There's very few people left who are trying to buy stuff. So in Seattle, for the last 8 years, no one's been able to get an inspection. You've had to waive inspections. You had to expect that the price is going to be $50,000 or more over asking. You're not going to have an appraisal gap contingency, anything like that. Right now, she was able to get rate buy down. She got her inspection. Every single thing she asked for to be repaired on the inspection was repaired. She was able to get the price negotiated down a little bit. She was able to get $12,000 in closing costs. So all of these things happen that make the deal look better. So if you're saying to yourself, well, the numbers don't work. Yeah, but you know what? You might actually get them to come down in price, buy your rate down, and do some other things. So make the offer that makes sense to you, or even make the offer that maybe they want to hear, and then beat them up in the inspection process, because the last thing they want to do is have it go back on the market, because now it's damaged. It's a damaged listing. So if you get negative, it's very easy, and I don't blame you. Things can suck. If you get negative, you're not going to make any progress. But if you just start to get creative, and I didn't even talk about creative financing, if you just start to get creative, 50, 40, 10, you'll be surprised how you can make a deal work. You're just making it work in a different way than you used to.
Yeah. Hey, BF, you're wrong. I just
Well-
close and also I'll back it up. So everybody's market's different. You might be seeing that in your market in that asset class that you're watching. Not disagreeing with you. I'm not doing research in your network or in your area, so I have no idea. But I can tell you that those blanket statements like that are just patently wrong. There's probably 80% of markets where deals still make sense. And I can promise you there are 100% of markets where some asset in those markets makes sense. Guys don't get super wealthy because they stop buying at a certain point. What they do is they assess the market, they assess the asset. And then, I mean, we were talking with, in our conversation last night, one of us made an offer, an embarrassing offer.
I was actually going to cover that.
Okay. Yeah. So he made an embarrassing offer and I'll let him kind of cover that. But so BF, what I would tell you is that you probably need to be looking at other assets in that market. I'm not saying that, what you're looking at that you're wrong. I'm saying what you're looking at, you're probably right, but you need to be branching and looking at other asset types in those markets. And I'm telling you, it's not what you think it is. And, if we're looking at if we're talking about the demise of fiat currency, listen, I can't play that game, because at the end of the day, if it happens, I don't have to outrun the bear. I only have to outrun you. And so what we look at when we look at the actual real estate market is there's all sorts of different assets within your market. And I guarantee somebody out there is getting wealthier, buying more of them, and because they're buying them right. But talk about your deal.
So here's why I'm going to completely agree and then disagree, literally in the same answer, right? The first one is you are not going to open an MLS list and see a price where that price with the current rents and interest rates is going to get you a 10 or 20% yield. Other words, someone would make an offer in 5 seconds and waive contingencies, right? That competition is still there. If the numbers made sense, someone's going to offer and outbid you, and then go to a point where they look like they're losing money because they're doing a 1031 and redeploying funds, or they're from another country and they want to stabilize there's all kinds of things you'll never know, right? So I agree. You're not just going to open it up and find those deals. But last Friday, so last week, what day is it? Sunday.
It's Sunday.
I don't know if that's a speaker note. Right. Where are we? But I was doing a members only live stream, and my thing is I want to open up listings and look at different markets and talk to the members, the kind of boring conversation of what do you actually look at when you're looking at a property? And I pull them up and I think, okay, I'm going to look on the MLS. These are probably going to be terrible deals. That's why we're talking about them. Why wouldn't you buy them? And so I'm not going to give too many details because I don't want people to compete with me. But to the members, I showed a duplex and I said, look, this really doesn't make sense. It's pretty close, right? But it's been on the market for 30 plus days.
Yeah. Which is crazy for our area.
Right. So after the members only live stream, I sat back and I thought, yeah, it's over a month. Yeah. Our market, a couple of days was average. So I made the offer. I didn't make the listing price offer. So at the number I made the offer at, it is a cash flowing property that gets me the yield I want from the MLS. But I didn't open it up and go, that price, these rents, these rates, that's a great deal. Right. So you're right. You're not just going to find it. But if you hunt, you'll find the one. And this might not be a motivated seller. That's why I'm not giving too many of the details. They might look at my offer and just not even answer me. Right. They might come back with something in the middle, or they might come back and say, yeah, that works, because no one else has even made an offer. It's been on over a month. So I'll make a video and update how that went. But that's deals from the MLS. And you're right. Every market's unique.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm even looking at this Vegas market. There are deals here where everyone's like, oh, Vegas is crashing. Vegas is crashing. Yeah, guess what? I found a deal that would give me over a 10% return on capital. Who wouldn't want an over a 10% return on capital? And I found the deal. And you know what? Because for me, I'm not here. If I were local, I would do it. If I were really looking to build a team out here and really start investing here, I would do it. But I'm not. But again, if you're in Vegas, it's a nice 10% return on capital. And that doesn't even count for the fact that it's in an area that I believe over the next 20 years, I mean, all real estate appreciates over 20 years, but I think it will also appreciate. But even just from a cash flow perspective, yeah, it's a nice spot. Chester, I saw your comment about me being exactly right. I mean, that's what actually made me pick it. But you said that basically you just changed your asset. You changed the asset type that you were looking for in your market, and now you're finding great deals. This is what I'm talking about. And asset doesn't have to necessarily be single family home to multifamily, small multifamily, large multifamily, commercial. It doesn't mean you have to completely change asset class. It can mean that you're actually changing the asset class within the asset class, which means maybe you're looking for 3.2s and there's a ton of competition for 3.2s, but you know what there isn't a ton of competition for? 4.2s or 5.3s. There's not a lot of competition. There's some older homes like that in my market where people are just like, nah, it's too big. Well, guess what I do? I do the roommate situation in there. So those things to me are worth their weight in gold because I'm still getting $750, $800 on average per person in a unit that size. And that means that I can actually pay more for the property because it's giving me that much greater of a return on my capital.
Couple of quick super chats here. One from Millennial Mike talking about possibly getting married while he's in Vegas for tax benefits. I think that's great.
Yeah. To Dion. To Dion.
What's your name in there?
No.
So I just cover that.
Yeah.
I got see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dion's retired, and I need someone who can spend $700 or 700 hours a year. So in order to get that tax break. So I was just saying, we'll find Elvis. We'll make it.
Saw Elvis in a wheelchair yesterday because
Funny.
That was the most interesting. That was interesting. I was like, the king truly has fallen.
Yeah.
And then Amafid, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. I was looking for a question in case I miss it. Please repost it because I don't see one. I just want to make it. So thank you for the support. But I want to get to a couple of questions here really quick from KS. The first one, I think I missed it, was do you have problems with Section 8 tenants, like bed bugs and not being clean and those kind of things? So first, it's a good question. It makes me think that you have the perception that a lot of people do, and they think of Section 8, the voucher program, as low-income housing, which is not what it is. It's fixed income housing. So I have Section 8 tenants who are getting a benefit that takes 5 years to get. Like if you get kicked off the program, you're on a waiting list for 5 years to even try it again, right? So I've never had a cleanliness issue with a Section 8 tenant. I screen credit score just like I do non-Section 8. I know that's market dependent, kind of like in Gary, Indiana. If they have a good credit score, they're probably going to buy because homes are $50,000. Yeah. If they're in Tacoma, $50,000 is the down payment, right? So credit score is not the only barrier. It's income that's also a barrier. So think Section 8. Don't think that tells you what type of tenant you're going to get. Your property attracts the type of tenant you're going to get. If you own a slum in a slum neighborhood, you're going to get the tenants that are okay with that. If you own a nice property and you do your rents right and you screen right, you're going to get the right kind of tenants. What are your experiences there with Section 8?
The opposite. Dion and I love Dion.
When it comes to credit score, have you had bed bugs in a Section 8 tenant?
So I had cockroaches.
Have you ever had that with a non-Section 8 tenant?
Never.
Okay, good.
It was. So this is where it's interesting, is because Dion is the reason that I started doing Section 8 rentals. And most days I love Dion.
And now you have those issues.
And some days I'm like, effing Dion.
Zuber's the same way every time he spends money that I've convinced him.
Exactly. Yeah. And so here, I'll just shoot you guys straight. So in 2 years, so I had never, ever had cockroaches before. The first time I ever got cockroaches was about a year ago. It was a Section 8 tenant. The second time I got cockroaches, it was a Section 8 tenant. And
were these properties you owned that you would then put Section 8 in?
No, so these were properties that I bought that didn't have the issue when I bought them, and then had the issue within 6 months to a year of my buying them, and it was a Section 8 tenant. I agree generally with what Dion says, which is it's fixed income, not low income. However, I see both sides of it. It is, some people are fixed income and some people are low income. And so, or no income.
So you need to screen.
You do have to screen 100%. That was one of the things where, so in the beginning, what I took for granted was Section 8's kind of done the screening for me. No. They need me a lot more than I need them. And so they're trying to fill units.
Right.
And so they were more than happy to send me all the, I'm just going to say it, shit bums. And it was one punchline after another with who they were sending me. And I'm just like, come on, if you guys own this house, you wouldn't rent to them. right?
And we were talking last night.
Yeah.
You have now clarified.
Yes.
Here's
Yeah.
my criteria, that's what I'm saying from day
100%,
one. You screen your
100%.
Section 8 tenants almost exactly the same as everyone else,
Absolutely.
except maybe their income. You're not comparing it against the total income of the property,
Correct.
comparing it against their portion.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. I see my laptop might die. So if we die, just go over to, that's
Do you
okay.
No, we get a charger.
I don't think
Is it USB-C?
it's USB-C. Yes.
I got mine.
So if you have if you're a charger,
I have
see, this is good this is good TV.
that white cable.
But oh, perfection. See, these guys are so on the ready better than I am. Like I got this charger right here.
Have a specific one.
Yeah, it's a C.
That's a
and
C.
then there you go. That's exactly what I need.
Oh, he's even
Hey, we need,
me up.
tech
Legit.
issues. Thanks for bringing this.
Yeah, right in there. Thanks, Bob.
Do it.
It
Oh,
did.
yeah.
That's magnificent. Wow, you
Okay.
guys are
And the
fantastic.
follow-up question with
Yeah.
the Section 8 was, what is the average stay of a Section 8 tenant? You just started last year.
Yeah. So here's what I will tell you. What I do love is that's where Dion is 1,000% correct. He's dead on. It is, they absolutely stay longer. And is part of the process of adding to the rent increase, like the binder strategy is even like it's just even easier because now it's just, hey, what are your rates going to? Cool. That's what I'm going to send the tenant a letter for. And largely it doesn't even affect the tenant. You know,
Or their portion goes down.
Right.
Because they haven't been reviewed in
correct. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been, so I actually really like, I mean, so we're moving a lot of our portfolio. So I believe that there is going to be a recession. I believe that we are going to have a tough economy for probably a couple of years. I believe that's a huge buying opportunity for me. And I believe I'll buy a lot more real estate. And I think the biggest thing is that part of that strategy is we have guaranteed dollars coming in on the first every single month. And all of our other tenants pay, but the borderline tenants are the ones that are going to have the biggest challenges. And those folks, you know, in Section 8 and housing, they're not going to have those challenges. So it's been, quite frankly, it's been the one thing that I have to figure out is that right now they're about 12 or 13% of my portfolio, housing tenants. They're about 12 or 13% of my portfolio. They're about 80%, 75 to 80% of my phone calls and issues logged. And they're in the same quality units that all my other tenants are in. So that's been the learning experience for me. And so you guys feel free to ask any Section 8 questions. I've only got a couple of years experience and I'm still learning the process. I started off with one town 2 years ago, and now I'm working with 3 towns. And I definitely see what Dion was talking about when he says there are some places better than others. What do they call
the
those?
housing authorities?
Housing
right.
authorities. Yeah. Yeah. There's some better housing authorities than there are others, for sure. But as part of the strategy, it's working. It's working well. And BF real quick, check out CES Las Vegas. Yeah. So I've been in tech for 25 years. And so I've been out here for a number of times for the conference. Call Brian Lebo, ask him about the Desert Shores property that he showed the lumberjack landlord. And maybe it's still on the market. I just looked at it, or I just looked in that area about a week ago. So you don't even need to give me a finder's fee like you offered. But yeah, call Brian Lebo. The biggest issue is you got to be with an amazing agent, and Brian Lebo is about as good as it gets. And he knows the market, knows the areas. But that house was under 500K, and it would rent for, he said, between $400 and $4,500 a month. And based on my numbers, that was, much greater than a 10% return on capital. So reach out to Brian Lebo, and I'm not buying that one. So by all means, you can reach out and ask him about the Desert Shores property that he showed the lumberjack, or what drove by with the lumberjack and talking about that deal. But I think you got to, I don't know who your agent is, but I know that Brian's the best out here. That's why I hired him.
So there was a question of, are you only buying Section 8 properties? And then you clarified your numbers. This is the percent that they are, but they're a larger percent of your issues. Yes. And then again, we don't buy Section 8 properties. No. You can buy a property as a Section 8 tenant in it, but when you buy a property, the idea is to diversify your portfolio and have a portion with the housing voucher program, and whatever you're comfortable with. That might be one because you think it's a nightmare. It might be, with me, I try to keep about a third of my portfolio. The idea is if a recession hits construction, you don't want 100% of your tenants in the construction industry. If you rent outside of a military installation, you don't want 100% military tenants, because if the base closes or deploys or something changes, you want some of your tenants coming from different sources. So I like to have some military, some Section 8, some working or retired. And you need to figure out the ratio that works in your area for you. Janitor on Fire. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. That's a great name. I like it.
It is.
Putting
That's
the
awesome.
acronym in there. And then Tom Klein out there driving on a Sunday, probably, unless you're at home. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Questions on yours?
Yeah, I want to get to one. So BF, what's going to happen when the recession hits and 30% of your tenants lose their jobs and stop paying rent? You know what happens, BF? I still print. That's what I still do. Because at 50%, I still make money. And that's what running an amazing business is. And that's what being an amazing operator is. And so, yeah, I don't worry about, and if you think unemployment's going to 30%, you have no historical backing for a 30%.
Right. So I mean, if it doubled right now, we're still not near
we get to 7.
Yeah, we get
to 7. Yeah. Right. But I've even said, hey, let's get nutty. 10% unemployment. That means that 90% of people are still employed.
And a lot of people will grab the statistic and say, well, we had around 10% when the 2008 housing crash happened. Right. But we had over 50% adjustable rate mortgages. We had a large percentage of people who borrowed 104% to wrap closing costs into the loan that weren't ready for the adjustable rate. Yeah. So it wasn't even that you lost your job and then couldn't make your payment. It was you were working and couldn't make your payment. So unemployment is just one of the metrics. And again, at 6%, we're considered 100% employed.
Right.
Like that's full employment, not 100%. We're full employment at 6%. And we haven't been this low on unemployment since I think the 80s, 60s or something. It's a ridiculous number of decades. So it is a concern to think, well, what if unemployment goes up? What if some of your people are unemployed? That's right. So that's why we have some military and we have some Section 8 and we try to diversify your rental income sources. I like to, you work in 3 towns. You're now investing in 3 different areas, right? You're in Houseack 1,
3 different states,
different states.
That's crazy.
So, and I keep my properties at least 10 miles apart. So I'm not sitting next to a Boeing terminal. And if the taxes change and they go, yep, we're moving to Kentucky, I all of a sudden don't have any tenants. I have several economic drivers by each place, just like you guys have the different markets. So we do, that's a great question. What do you do if rents drop? Well, you diversify. So rents aren't going to drop. You don't over leverage to where you need 100% of your rents coming in to even make your bills. You want 50% of your rents coming in to still be a profitable business. Right. That's why where some people can scale super fast, it's not my goal. Right? Having 120 years, 130 in 20 years, that's not super fast. Right. That's one rental at a time, finding the deals. And you guys, you've said it very clearly. The last couple of years have been when you exploded in unit count because you have that, you're just lucky. Preparation met opportunity. You made your own luck. And that's what I think a lot of people forget. And that's why I tried last week to make all those videos on what were the first, we need to do that too. What are the first 10 years like? What did the cash flow look like year 1, year 2? And it's because everyone keeps hearing us talk. You have 10 units, you have 130 units, you have financial freedom, you retired, walked away from a job. That all sounds great, but that first year sucks.
Yeah.
So I mean, Dion's been doing this for over 10, Matt's been doing it for over 20, Zub at 20 plus. The point of my channel was that I wanted to document the actual first 10 years of being a real estate investor. So my very first video is me with no rentals, with $1,000 in the bank, recently divorced, and I'm a renter. And I said in that first video, I'm going to figure out no matter what, how to be successful through real estate investing. And you can watch every video for every property I purchased, all the loans I did, the seller financing, the people I met, talked to, interviewed, all of it's on YouTube. And you can see how slow it is to grow because I bought my very first house hack and I made a couple videos, but I didn't buy another property for a year and a half. But then that year and a half later, then I bought 3. Then I had to wait another year, and then I bought 3. And it is, as Dion likes to say, an income snowball. It's an exponential curve. It's not a linear trajectory. And so it does take a little bit of time to get the ball rolling. And that can be frustrating for some people. A lot of people don't necessarily have the patience to wait around for that. That's why they're not going to be winners. In all honesty, they're going to be stuck where they are. A lot of people say, is $250 a month in positive cash flow really worth it? That's not really worth it. Well, yeah, when I bought my first property day one and it was rented for $875, and I was making $250 a month in positive cash flow, but today it rents for $1,250. And my $350 mortgage payment at $875 rent is still a $350 mortgage payment at $1,250 rent. Now I have a $900 spread. Now I have a $600 positive profit on that one property. And to whoever it was that said, well, what happens when 30% of your units stop paying? I've stress tested my portfolio. 50%, I can go all the way down to 50% of properties not paying out of my 10 units and still break even. I don't want that to happen. If I had less than 50% of people, then it would actually start to come out of my pocket. But I have never had 50% of my properties not pay in the same month. I don't anticipate that happening. That would be a pretty huge number. So anything over 50% is where I start getting into profit. So I think I'll be able to weather a recession. Hopefully I've stress tested and planned it well enough, but I think I'll be able to do all right.
Yeah. So you have 3 people here working on financial freedom. Achieving it or whatever, working at sharing the information, trying to get you there. Here's why it's great when someone like BF comes and says, hey, here's these questions. And they kind of seem challenging, right? So we're trying to answer them. Sure. They're appreciated. So for the last 13 years, I ran a truck driving school. I was the president of the truck driving school. I grew it from, we had 6 staff. When I left, there were a little over 60. We had started with 1 location, there were 5. So I grew a company. But every time we had a new idea, or I had an idea and I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We kind of have that round table meeting with all the actual smart people that worked for me, which I got the credit for. I didn't do anything. They did everything. And I would go, here's the idea. We would devil's advocate it. Yeah. Just like this. Those are the great questions. It's, well, what do you do if the rents go down? Okay, well, here's why. These are the things you're going to do to plan for that, to prepare for it. What do you do if this market, like you said, Vegas, might have a larger swing in the unemployment because it's such a service-based industry. So then questions come up like Samoan Island girl. Howdy. Do you recommend becoming a realtor as a means to get in the game? Or are there probably better ways? So the first thing I'll say, and I'll let you guys answer, the first thing I'll say is I will explain the long list of reasons why I am not an agent. Yeah. And then let's start with Mike. And then we'll go to Matt. Mike, sure. Would you recommend becoming a realtor, which is only 2 syllables, to get into the game?
Definitely not to everyone. And I think my recommendation would have been no until last week. Last week, I was asked to do a presentation at a high school about law enforcement, because I'm a law enforcement officer. And they asked if I would come in and I would talk to the business and marketing class about career opportunities other than college. You don't need a college degree in my state, Washington, to be a law enforcement officer.
That principal needs a raise.
And so they brought me in to talk, and I business and marketing class, fantastic. I also own my own business and do YouTube, so I guess I maybe market myself a little bit. And so I sat there and I was talking to these people about how you don't need a college degree. There's lots of different avenues. And and while I was talking about law enforcement, I did bring up that I used it as a stepping stone because lenders love a secure 9-to-5 job, government jobs, to lend and borrow you money. And so I talked about how I use that as a stepping stone to start my own business, because we're in a business and marketing class. I had a young lady, 17 years old, come up to me and say, oh, your business is in real estate. I'm considering being a real estate agent, but I also want to be an investor. Do I need to do this? And I said, you don't need to. But at 17 years old, if you were going to pick a career and you were going to pick something, because you have to do something to start earning income.
Did you send Instagram Stephan's videos?
No, I didn't. What I did is told them first thing I said is, do you have Facebook? And they said, no. I was like, well, all right, crap. You're too young. I was like, because you need to join the Tacoma FI Facebook group, because we've got investors, we have agents, we have a whole host of different people. And I was like, you come meet some agents. There's some great people here. And I told her, you don't need to be an agent to become an investor. However, at 17 years old and you're trying to find a job, it might not be a bad idea, because she had come up with the idea of wanting to be a real estate agent. It might not be a bad idea to pursue that. It might be beneficial to be around those people. But no, yes, to your point, Dion, you do not have to be an agent. I don't have my real estate investing license. Neither do either of these guys. I believe Zuber had it actually at one point.
He had it, but lapse.
Yeah, but then he let it lapse because he, in his own words, said it never added any value to him.
Yeah, I mean, my take on the realtor thing is I think that as a realtor, if you want to use that to get in the game, here's what I would tell you. You need to do whatever. And that is, don't label yourself as a seller's agent or a buyer's agent. You can do that after years. But what you really need to do is get it. If you want that to be your career, there's no better time to choose it earlier on in life. But give you some perspective. Is somebody going to buy their home from you from some 20-year-old kid? Probably not. However, an investor doesn't care how old you are. They only care how good the deal is. So make sure that what you need to be doing is, the best advice that I would give any real estate agent is this, or potential real estate agent is this: become a rental agent. Because if you're a rental agent, I had one girl that was a rental agent. I talked to her and I said, she's like, hey, I decided I'm going to leave the brokerage where I'm at. She's like, but would you let me do some of your rentals? I said, yeah. So I came up with a pricing structure that we agreed to. And so she does all of my rentals, period, end of story. Excuse me, which is 6 or 7 a month based on what we're turning over now from inheriting buildings or inheriting tenants and rolling them over. What I will tell you is that, would she be likely to get a chance at selling one of my buildings? She knows them inside and out. She knows the tenants inside and out. She knows the building really well. These are all the things that so many agents poo-poo and go, ooh, I wouldn't want to waste my time doing a rental. Yet guess what? All the rich people own rentals. And so if you're getting that relationship with them, I've seen this in full swing where I know an agent, she's in her 60s. She sells houses, she helps buy houses, but she also is a rental agent. And now she does 30 to 40 rentals a month. On top of the 30 to 40 rentals a month, when those older landlords are selling, guess what they're doing? They're calling her and they're saying, hey, so we're thinking about putting it on the market. Could you talk to us about what that is? Well, guess what? They've owned it 20, 30 years. Here's what the answer is from all of those older landlords every single time they have a conversation with her. Holy cow, we never thought we could get that much. So she looks like this angel to them because they bought the thing 30 years ago for 120 grand. Now she's telling them, yeah, we can sell this for 600K. And this is the mistake that so many agents are getting into. They're trying to get that one transaction. The typical real estate agent makes 50 grand a year. That's the typical real estate agent. You need to be putting yourself in a position where you're getting around people that are wealthy, that have property, that are going to want to buy something, and then start to do some work and homework on your own and create. It's kind of like the Bud Fox, Gordon Gekko scenario, right? Which is, stop telling me information, stop making me some. And that's where you can then, as a new agent, you can learn a skill of how to find and create deals. And then you bring those to guys that you know are going to close. You will print money. You will absolutely print money as an agent. I won't say how much money my agent makes, but he makes a lot of money. And it's really funny because now he's to the point where he's like, yeah, I don't really want to do rentals anymore. Cool. So I've got her now, and she will make a ton of money over the next 2 to 5 years because she will learn how to bring me properties that I will buy and I close. And she will also keep my rental units rented. So I would tell you, if you're looking at being in the game, you've got to be doing it on the rental side and do everything you can to have meetings with people. And don't focus on getting a landlord that has 140 units. Focus on guys like Mike and Dion, because they're going to add properties. They're going to buy additional properties. They're going to eventually sell some properties. These are the kind of guys that you want to start off with, because quite frankly, you don't deserve to be in the room with somebody that's 150 units because they've got real pros that are on their team that are crushing it. What are your thoughts?
So both of you have great advice on how to become an agent if that was going to be your path. So the first question is, are you looking for another job?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if it's, I want to be an agent because I don't have access to the MLS, that's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I was an agent with access to the MLS, I'd have auto searches with at least 3 other agents set up, because my agents have never sent me the same deals. Right. One time in 10 years, I got the same deal within 24 hours. So searching the MLS is nuanced. Even as an agent, you're going to want other people with auto searches set up. Second, are you going to do it because you want to save money on your deals? How many deals are you going to do? Because with brokerage fees, licensing fees, paying taxes on the income, all of the rules that come in with being an agent, the education, the testing, if you're not closing 300 or 400, $500,000 deals a year, you're going to lose money being an agent. So if it's to buy 1 or 2 deals, it's definitely not worth it. Third thing is, do you want the restrictions that come in with being a professional in the industry?
Yeah.
As a buyer, I like calling the seller going, hey, I live in the area. I got 3 kids. I'd like to buy that house and live there. I can send you a love letter, an email with exactly why I'm the best buyer. Agents can't do that. And in some areas, agents aren't even allowed to share portions of the inspection report to say, here's why we want to negotiate the price down. But as a buyer, I'm stupid. I don't have to even know what those rules are. And I can do all kinds of things. So I don't want the restrictions that come with being an agent. Third is that I want to be a realtor so that I can see the properties and then buy the properties without consistent income, where a lender goes, 75% of realtors close less than 5 transactions a year. I Googled it just before talking, so that I don't sound that stupid. You're not bankable unless you have consistent W-2 income, unless you're going to go asset-based or DSCR loans, right? But even for that, you have to have a great credit score, which doesn't come from having inconsistent income. If you are going to do the agent thing, this is where I recommend going to Graham Stephan's older videos. So 2016 to 2019, he was a starting agent. He did I'm going to lease properties to people as a realtor representative to build the relationships. He house hacked, because if you have inconsistent income, reducing or eliminating your largest expense is a huge impact to you. So like, there are definitely ways to do it, but what's the motivation? If you love real estate, want to work in it, want to develop those relationships over years, absolutely. In conjunction with having a W-2 until you have the rental income, sure. But if it's to make you a better real estate investor, there is not enough benefit for me to want to do it that way. And most of the investors I know aren't agents. And while Zuber did it, he says it was dumb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I just think, so BF, you asked the question of what do I pay her? I pay by the hour. I don't pay by the property, because I already know how to perfectly market my properties. I know how to perfectly advertise them. All I did was put her in charge of the process. And so for her, she makes an hourly wage, which is predictable for her. And because I have the kind of volume that I have that I can throw at her, she is smart. She's like, okay, I'll work on an basically hourly rate. I trust her and how she accounts for her hours. But she's brilliant, because she will turn that into, yes, a job, but when she brings a property, then she'll still get the commission. I'm not paying her hourly for that. And so she brings a property and I buy that deal. She'll make her real estate commission on that, because I always dance with the one who brung me. If you bring me a deal, you're the one that I close it with. I don't say, oh, well, no, I need to bring it over to my team. Nope, that's not how I play the game. If you did the work, we take care of it and we make sure that you're the one that gets paid. So yeah, for her, she started out hourly, and it was a part-time kind of side gig, side hustle. And then she turned it into, she did such a good job with social media. She did such a good job with follow-up. She did such a good job with qualification and following our process. She did such an amazing job. It was like, it became a no-brainer for me to just keep on giving her my units, because she now has a pipeline and she can create an opportunity for a tenant over here and then move it over to the other side. $300 commission for your rentals. That's good. That's horrible. It's really low. I don't know how much your rentals are, but my rentals range between like 1,100 and 3,000. And so the price of those units, what I always try and tell her is, I want to pay you by the hour, because if for some reason I have a tenant that wants to move into another unit and you already took the pictures and marketed it and showed it a few times, I don't want you getting zero if I'm paying you a commission. I want to make sure you got paid for the time that you put in. She understood that, because we've had that happen in 2 or 3 scenarios. And I told her, I said, listen, she's like, oh, I really wanted to rent that. I said, don't even worry about it. You got paid anyway, because of the time that you put in, you already got paid. And so for me, that model's worked really, really well. And she's been thrilled. And for me, she's been amazing. Emma's been great.
That's a strategy that I really like. And so here, okay, so they say there's no dumb questions.
Okay.
Here's the dumbest question I see. To clarify. How can I get my agent to lower their commission?
Oh,
if you're asking that, you're absolutely going to fail.
Yeah, you will.
You want to build relationships with agents who not only call you and say, hey, you're in Vegas. I heard you're in Vegas.
Yeah.
Let me send you to this place to eat, because they want to do the deal with you next time, because I've never said, let me cut your deal down to make me save money. It's how can I make sure you get your commission?
Yeah.
And then to the point where when the seller says, hey, if we do this, we can actually not use the agents and we'll both save money. You tell the seller to F off. I wouldn't want that. You only have one reputation, and it's going to last decades.
Yeah.
So yes, you can do things like work with only the selling agent. That's fine if you found the deal. But if an agent brings it to you, your goal should be to make them money. So if you have somebody like that, and then they did the work, but you're getting a rental that they didn't actually do as much as they would have because they've already done it once, compensating them helps that relationship. About a month ago, I had a couple of things that I could have went and done, right? Simple repairs at the property, take 20 minutes. I'm retired. What's 20 minutes where I'm going to pay a handyman $200 to go do it, right?
Yep.
I was happy to pay the handyman for $200 because tonight at midnight, if I get a phone call or a text that goes through the Hemlane platform, my handyman's going to handle it. Because they'll do the hard job or the bad time job because I gave them the easy work and was happy to pay them to keep that relationship going.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dion's been a CEO. I've been a CEO. I've been a VP. I've had teams of people. He's had teams of people. There's a reason that we have credibility in what we talk about. We run companies. We know how to take care of people. We don't have people leaving. If you're leaving, then you're a malcontent, largely speaking. Like, we treat our people right. We take care of our people. Think, how would you like to be treated? It's the golden rule. Like, how would you like to be treated? And so I treat my realtors, I treat all of my team with respect. I want to hear their concerns. I want to hear if we can do something better. Here's what I can also tell you. She is a broker for a number of other owners, a number of other real estate folks. And here's what I can tell you. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that she drops whatever she's doing for them when I ask for something, because I don't give her a hard time. I pay her as soon as she invoices me. I'm always interested in her feedback. She constantly gets my business handed to her. And I know that there's other landlords that hand her almost as many units as I do. But I know that I'm priority because I take care of her. I listen to her. I validate her concerns. You need to be a good leader. And if you can be that and be engaged with your people, it makes the world of difference. And there's no doubt in my mind that she's going to become a giant in real estate. And she's young. She's in her mid-20s. She's going to become a giant in real estate. And just by being nice and working with her and investing my time in her, I'm going to get a return on that investment. Even if I didn't, it's okay. But I really believe that will happen. So, take a leadership course, and understand that people, your employees or the people that you're working with, they don't have to work with you. If you're going to be an overbearing jerk, like, take a flying leap, they'll find somebody else to work with.
Any questions on your live stream?
So BF, most realtors are charging 5% commission, 2.5% and 2.5%. The problem is that if you're paying a realtor $300 on average, right, to rent out a $3,000 unit or a $2,000 unit or whatever, they're going to work on your stuff when everything else is done. I want to be a priority. I'm willing to pay a little bit of a premium per hour to be that priority. It's just that simple. And I think it's creating relationship with people. Take care of the people that are on your team. I know that people are excited to bring me deals because I close. I know they're excited to bring me deals because we're going to work on things together. And, I think Mike's seen it with my crew. What's your feedback as a third-party observer?
About how your crew enjoys being around you? Yeah. So I actually took a bunch of B-roll footage when I was hanging out with Matt. That's just like background footage that we can use in videos. All his guys like him. They all work very hard. They all show up on time. They all have a good relationship with him. So you can tell that when they come to him and say, hey, can I take off a little bit early today? Or I need this day off in the middle of the week for some random reason. Matt's the guy who's like, oh yeah, sure. Let's make it work. And if we got a big project we're working on, we might have to shuffle the schedule around a little bit to make something work. But if you take care of your people, that's what happens. Same thing in law enforcement. We have a detachment or a crew or a group of people, 8 of us, we all work together and everybody has lives and kids got sports and people are trying to take off early. And if you're the supervisor who says, no, this is your schedule, your people are going to very quickly switch to another crew. They're going to become demoralized. They're going to switch to another agency. They're going to resent being there. They're not going to work as hard. The best guy that I ever worked for, my very first sergeant. I wish I could say his name, but I don't think I'm allowed to. Anyways, but he was a family first guru. We could be so critically understaffed that, I mean, it was perilous out there. And if you had, my kid has something, or I got a doctor's appointment for my son, or he's not feeling good from school, let's go, we'll figure it out. We'll call someone from another district to come cover. You take care of your family first. And his detachment routinely won award after award after award for hard work, because everybody knew he supported them so much. And so, yeah, to Matt's point, like if you lead by taking care of your people first, they can't help but want to work hard for you. And that goes with like everything in life.
Yeah, I think it's important. I saw one, Rick Ramirez, thanks for the super chat. How do lenders view renting out the rooms in a house as opposed to renting out the whole house when it comes to qualifying for another mortgage?
Before you answer, I want to say thank you, Rick. You super chatted both channels. You are amazing. I want to make sure we got to that question.
Oh, very cool.
So,
Rent by the room is not something I do. Rent by the room is a challenge because some towns it's outlawed. Some towns just flat out don't allow it. And if they catch you, you're in trouble. And trouble means like they can evict your tenants. It can be a really hairy mess. And so what I try and do is I don't try and talk to the bank a lot about necessarily the strategy from a perspective of I'm going to go roommates, or I'm going to go this, or I'm going to rent to only families, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. I talk to them much more about this is the opportunity I see in the market, and this is how we're going to approach it. So to answer you, the question is, I don't necessarily share that with my bank. I think that the more information you share on that perspective is the higher likelihood that they just say, no, that's not, we don't want to support that, or we don't want to do that. And it becomes then a football for them to give them a reason to basically deny you. So everything that we rent out, even when we go roommate, it's people are all on the same lease. It's not individual leases. So everybody's on the same lease. And that way everyone from a typical lease is everyone's then joint and severally liable, which means that if one of those people trashes the place, actually everybody on that lease is responsible. It gives you a lot more opportunity.
So I just actually went through this exact scenario with Marina, who just closed on a duplex. The top level of her duplex is a 3-bed, 1-bath that she's going to rent by the room to tenants who don't know each other. And so there'll be common areas. And so there'll be leases that are a little bit different than if it was renting the whole unit out to one person. So when we were going through the lending process, we informed the lender that we're renting it out by the room. The lender just ran it based as if it was rented out as one whole unit. So we looked for like what comps were in that area and what you could rent it for as a long-term rental to like a family. Even though the rent by the room strategy will actually get you more, they just went for the more conservative estimate of what the long-term rental would be. And so that's how that lender handled the situation right there for using those projected rents towards the debt to income ratio on the property and the payment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew Paris. I wanted to say that. I was looking for a question to make sure I don't miss it. Here we go. I got a clarification on the question we had earlier on the what do you think of 2 1s?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So buying the interest rate down 2%.
Okay.
And then 1%.
Oh, yeah.
Right. The step down, buy down.
Yeah.
So what is your thought on interest rate buy downs like that?
So it's a math equation. So I won't break everyone's brain, or most people's brains with going through the minutia of the math equation, but it's a fairly, I'll simplify it as best I can. Anytime you're looking at a rate buy down, you look at what the cost of that rate buy down is. Is it a cost of rate buy down that you have to do yourself, or is your seller doing that? Would they still give you that same concession in some other way? And at the end of the day, the thing you want to make sure is that it still hits all of your target metrics after the rate buy down is gone. That's the mistake that people make, is that they look at the number and they're like, look how much I'm making now, but where is the buy down in 2 years? And is there any change in the effective interest rate after that 2 years is over? Is there any sort of a reset? If there is, absolutely not. If there isn't a reset and it's really just 30-year fixed rate debt mortgage where it's a 2-1, and then basically now year 3 is your normal payment, just base everything off that first one. And what I do like about it is that it actually allows you to save. Don't use that money. Save that money more in the maintenance, in the expenses part of the PITI, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, expenses. save that money in the expenses category because it will give you a cushion in case something big happens.
And quick break. We're going to take a 10-second break on Matt's camera because I got to swap the battery out for him.
Oh, okay. See,
We're not going off.
We didn't have a good tech plan for this today.
and that's 100% my fault because Dion and Mike came prepared. I did not because we
had to bring enough stuff for your stuff too.
That's true. That's so true.
And then Dividend Dave super chats and lets us know that he's here. We can start over now.
Oh, perfect. Oh, I like it when he always asks, he goes, so just catch me up what I missed so far.
Yeah. What happened in the last hour?
Exactly.
And then Kip, howdy. Always glad to see you here. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. There are a lot of really great questions
Kip,
here.
thanks for coming.
Let's make sure we can get Matt's camera back online.
Should be good.
I was going to say, watch the.
It looks like the TV is going off at midnight.
Yeah, watch
in the 70s.
Watch the concurrent viewers spike.
We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Still
good.
on it.
Yeah, good.
We're good. Yeah,
Nice.
but no, I think
Everyone's tapping their phone. I think it's broken.
yeah, exactly. They're like,
Hey, I gave him forewarning that was coming.
and BF Lumberjack, how much security deposits are you getting from your tenants? It's so in my state by law, I can't get more than what the monthly rent is. And usually we're this close to the same as last month's rent. It really depends. The only way that we can get more than the monthly rent is if it has some sort of a pet deposit, but we don't use pet deposits. We actually use pet fees. But deposit, you have to return a fee you get to keep.
That's the legal definition, which trips up a lot of people.
Yeah.
You can't say non-refundable deposit.
That's right.
What that negates the entire thing.
Correct. And it changes the rules by which if that ever went to court and you ever lost, you would actually owe triple in my state. And so it takes a deposit and it actually triples it if for some reason, whatever you withheld. And so they could actually go after you and say, they tried to keep my pet deposit and they can actually get triple damages.
So, Mike, how long do you think it will go from you started investing in real estate to you could have reached financial independence?
I've answered this question a few times because there's lean fire and then there's fat fire.
Right.
I don't want to be lean fire, and there is no pun intended at all or any disrespect when I say that I want to be more like Matt and be fat fire. All right, he's a good-looking guy. Look at that healthy ox over here, barrel-chested lumberjack. Anyways, so how many years total will it take for me to get there? That's actually a good question. And there's a significant amount of planning that goes into actually retiring adequately because the healthcare costs, once you do not any longer have a job, is pretty large. In fact, it's a very large expense, especially if you're still, Dion doesn't have any kids that he needs to support. It's just him, right? But Matt has young kids. I have a kid. Maybe I'll have more kids one day. So there's more factors play into it. I would say from the day I started to my projected hopeful end day, the day I closed on my first rental when I was 28, and I'm hoping at 35 to be retired, that would be 3 years from now. That's 7 years. Am I doing the math correctly? Yeah, that's 7 years. Okay, good.
So how much per month do you think that's going to be?
Honestly, I don't know enough about the healthcare costs to tell you.
Fair enough.
I really don't.
So I have two things to say about that. First, the question was, do you think they can get to 7,000 a month in 5 years?
Oh, yeah.
I think easily because I started from a really bad position with a really low income. So there was a 5-year recovery in addition to starting for me. So 5 years, absolutely possible. I say 10 years or less because it's achievable. Like if I said, you can pull a Cody and be wealthy in a year. Like if I just said that to everybody, they're like, oh, it's possible, but not for me. Right. So the other thing is the healthcare thing that everybody keeps bringing up. Here's the beauty of real estate. You don't make any money at all.
No,
you don't make a
that's
penny.
true.
So when you look at the Obamacare system, you go on there and it goes, okay, if you make less than $47,000 a year, here's all the benefits based on how much you make less. I'm carrying forward a loss on hundreds, pluralized last year now. It's last year now. Pluralized, hundreds of thousands in profit that looks like I'm carrying forward a loss. So when I go for healthcare, I get the maximum, because we live in a socialist country now, benefit of healthcare. Don't blame the player, it's the game, right? So when you go to retire and your asset that you're using is real estate. So if you use stocks and you have, I'm going to withdraw $50,000 a year to live on, you have $50,000 a year in income when it comes to healthcare. If you live on real estate and you make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you have a depreciation schedule, you have write-offs, and you're going to make a lot less money on paper and still be bankable because the lenders take out the depreciation. Healthcare is not as big a concern as a lot of people think. And while Matt wanted this, you need to be able to cross state lines.
Yeah.
You wanted to be in a certain thing. You need like $2,700 a month for your healthcare.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the creative way that you created an LLC to do this, structured it, make sure you're doing all these kind of things. The average person who doesn't have the out of network needs,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's an expense.
Yeah.
Don't let healthcare be the thing that holds you in your job. Right now you're at a job and you're like, I have healthcare. I'm safe. I'm only paid $200 a month because my employer covers the rest, while your employer is covering about 80%. So there's somewhere around $1,100 to $1,300 a month expense. So that's another duplex, right? That's what healthcare is when it comes to stopping you from retirement, is make sure you have an asset for every expense, and add in the fact that since you're choosing real estate, I'm guessing because you're on these channels, it doesn't look like you make a lot of money on paper.
If your question had been, how long will it take you to make $7,000 a month in straight profit? I'm just coming into year 5 right now. I bought my first rental 2018. So I'm in year 4, approaching year 5. I'll hit that this year. So
Nice.
Within 5 years for me, at least.
Sweet. So what he just did was volunteer to buy breakfast.
It's on me. I'm starved.
You don't want to go where my realtor's sending me tonight.
No,
We're going to the Denny's across the street.
I wouldn't even treat me that well.
I wouldn't.
Exactly. Exactly. Jay, I hope you're watching.
That's why your wife had to get a bet out of you just to get
It's
that nice.
true. It's very true. It's very true. Yeah, it's good.
So there's a question here on how do you assume a mortgage?
So I have assumed a mortgage before? I don't think I haven't assumed a mortgage. So assuming is different than sub 2. Sub 2 is not your credit, not your credentials, not your cash. Assuming is completely different. Assuming you have to be approved by the mortgage company to meet all the financial requirements, all the credit requirements. You have to meet all of you basically have to get approved for the loan by them.
And there's an extra step that most people, I don't hear many people talk about, and I only know this because I went through it.
Yep.
So in 2010, I was losing my mind because I sucked at real estate and didn't educate myself. I had a tenant that trashed the place, didn't live there, rented the house out. Someone else took the money, like wasn't paying rent. All these things, I wanted to quit. Like I wasn't into YouTube University. I didn't find BiggerPockets. I didn't find one rental at a time. I hadn't found Rich Dad Poor Dad, like all these things. I tried rentals. I failed. I wanted to give the house away, but I was underwater. I couldn't give it away. I had 138 houses were going for 100, but I found somebody who could assume the loan. Their credit score qualified, their income qualified. And the lender said to her, if you make 12 payments, then you assume the loan. She had to continue to qualify all the way through and make the payments. And so that was a weird qualification for assuming a loan. Was you have to meet all the criteria and then for the next year make the payments, then the loan becomes yours. I don't know why the lender did that or how common that is, but I've heard of other people say, yep, they did the same thing. The lender said you have to make X number of payments and then we'll do the loan assumption. So talk to the lenders to find out what they specifically in that deal want to happen. And then ironically in my deal at 10 months, she lost one of her jobs, made enough, but the other job was a bartender. And the lender said, you don't qualify. And she said, actually, my aunt passed away and I inherited a house. So she moved out and didn't end up wanting the house. And I was like, okay. And luckily then it turned into financial freedom by rentals, which I wouldn't have done. If she had assumed it, I probably never would have owned a rental again.
Yeah.
It would be one less Dion in this room.
Exactly.
Unreal.
Any questions on your channel?
Because
I've got a ton, but let's keep going through yours.
I think it would be a great video if one of you could have an accountant on, do a deep dive on how to write off your losses in order to maximize your buying power while also reporting income. And so my accountant, Bob Langworthy, is spectacular. He's done a couple things on Mike's channel. He's going to be in my course because there's a lot there to that. And I don't want to put people in a bad spot where it's, I want to make sure that people have access, that it can be a conversation, because just doing a video on that is really too hard because there's so many variables. And that's the thing that as I get more into my real estate journey, still learning every day. the thing that I learn most often is that there are so many flavors of what you can do in your portfolio, in your business, how you manage it, how you expense things. There are so many variables that you should never, ever, ever take an accountant's answer to somebody else's question. They need to really have a depth and breadth of knowledge of your portfolio, your goals and what you're trying to accomplish before you can get advice that fits what you're trying to do.
So the main thing I want to do when it comes to accountants is I don't want to have one come on and say, here's the write-offs people miss, or, those kind of, because you can Google those kind of things. I want an accountant to come on and do a mental shift from people who ask the question, is this a write-off? To think of everything that you spend money on, how can I make this a write-off?
Yeah.
Is a trip to Vegas a tax write-off? For most people, for 99.9%,
being mentored.
a couple of nights, absolutely not. But if your income source, even the portion of it is from Google AdSense, and you do a video while you're in Vegas, there's a write-off. If you own real estate, or if you want to own real estate and you're thinking, I'm going to go look at a market, I'm going to talk to Brian Lebo, I'm going to tour a couple of properties for your business. How can I make this a write-off? Is going to a show a write-off? Did you take a client? Right? So even you knew I was about to say no because it's not related to it, right? But how can you make this a write-off? And then know what's going on currently. So that's what I want as an accountant to say. Here's the mindset you have to have.
Yeah.
You are in a tax rewarding system. We don't have a tax penalty system. It's not a system that says the more you make, the more you're going to pay. That's what everybody that we hear on social media say. That's what the system that they want is the more you make, the more you should pay. What we have is a country that needs housing, needs industry, needs growth, needs jobs. And all it happens by encouraging people to do the things that creates housing and creates businesses. So have the mindset. What can you do different that can turn everything you're doing into a write-off? There will be some things where you go, yep, I tried every angle and I can't figure it out. So this one I'm just paying for, but almost everything else.
And if anybody's interested, I did interview my CPA, and I've got 3 videos on my channel, and he talks all about different things that are write-offs. He also debunks the LLC.
Why are we not on your channel right now too?
Because I got like 6 subscribers. 3 of them are my grandma. 2 of them are all-nighter hider. So I figured it'd be more beneficial to you guys if we were on their channel. So Hyder, thanks for being 50% of my viewership. Appreciate you, buddy.
I will say so in coming to Vegas, we made part of our day every single day scouting out properties. We drove through neighborhoods every day, and we took the kids with us. And it was an hour, sometimes 3 hours. The 3 hours was not, the longer ones weren't with the kids. But yeah, I've driven neighborhoods. That's how I learn. That's how I learn areas. I drive the neighborhoods. I go into the grocery stores. I go to the convenience stores. I do it early in the morning to see how many people are sleeping outside places. You have to do that in Vegas, not like some others. So that's how I've tried to. Brian Lebo's been fantastic at providing me information. And then it's now experiencing that information on my own. So doing those drives, I mean, I think I might be close to setting the record on a minivan for the amount of mileage that I'm going to return that thing back with. But yeah, it was good. And so it just keep on driving around and looking at stuff. But that was, one of the things where I asked the accountant, I said, hey, how do I make this something where I can, write it off? And he said, you need to make sure that you're doing things there that you can't do other places. And
or you're specifically there to do
exactly,
and it's associated with the business, right?
Exactly. And so that's what we've done. And so it's been a great family trip, but it's also been a fantastic business trip. Thanks to these guys for jumping on a plane and coming down and hanging out with me. It was awesome.
Yeah, it took so much coercion, blackmail, threats.
So it was great.
So 2 quick things from Wandering Doc. First, my retirement plan is 1 mil on Tesla and 1 mil on Red at Monaco. I like it. I suggest everyone do the same. My dad always had the story of took 10,000, put it on one color, and lost it. I never knew if it was BS or not, but in the before I was born, that would have been the life savings.
Interesting.
So the other thing is you have tenants that are 20% below area average, and a bunch of people in the chat recommended that you Google the binder strategy. So we won't take up this video to talk about that because it takes like 10 minutes to go through that strategy. But your tenants will ask you to raise the rent. You won't have a tenant turnover. Your tenants will be happy. I think it's the reason why I'm trying to share as much information is because I came up with a strategy where landlords get to feel ethical. You're not just kicking tenants out and raising the rent. You're just maxing out the rent increase. You don't have a bunch of turnover, so you don't have the expense of rehabs, and you're including tenants in the conversation. So binder strategy, Dion Talk. There's a few shorter videos. There's one that's 20 minutes long. It's the video I made for the one rental at a time course. It's literally, I intro it like, here's the video for the course. And then it's a 20-minute video on the strategy for that.
And Dion's actually doing that in the, oh shit, I'm a landlord, now what? And we're actually adding my twist to it. So you guys will see that in the course, but with the added strategy. And the binder method is purely brilliant. Dion coined it, and it's, I mean, it will absolutely change the way that you landlord. And get paid.
Okay, we've been almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it depends on how much time you guys want to spend in Vegas here
We can go
with some great questions. I'm good for however long.
Yeah, we can go to the like 18 minutes, and then
Okay.
I'm starting to get hungry.
Oh,
Fat guy needs some food.
hangry.
And I think I think it was Marco Scheer. I think he called it out. We look like an Oreo.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here's real estate Oreo.
Here's what it really is. It's the fat guy's wearing black, and it's the thin shape guy wearing white.
Right. As we talk about going to get food.
Yeah, I was the only one who jogged here this morning. Just running from Excalibur to Aria with my camera stuff like a weirdo.
Yeah. Didn't want to buy a rental. Or
As you get older, you'll just want to rely on the being a good shot. Don't run, you'll just die tired. Making sure there's no questions here that I'm missing there.
Chester Williams did ask me to explain the difference between lean fire and fat fire, because I had mentioned that earlier. So there's people who, the fire movement, I believe, kind of started in the stock environment where they would get enough dividend paying stocks or enough of a worth in stock portfolio where they could draw down the 4% and then live off of that. Well, so for lean fire, what it is the goal was to figure out what all of your expenses were to live, like your bare minimum living expenses, like a little bit of gas for your car, your housing payment if it wasn't paid off, and your food and that type of stuff. Like, okay, and what's the smallest amount of money you need to make in order to cover all of your base living expenses? And that's considered lean fire, just barely scraping by. And that's not what I want to do. I want to have a Lambo next to Matt one day. I hate talking about the fact that I want to own a Lambo, because then I feel like it puts me in the fake guru category where people might side eye me a little bit and be like, oh, so you just into like materialistic things? Absolutely not. I'm into women, but also materialistic things. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Woman.
Well, woman.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways,
Yeah.
No. But like, I don't want to I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to go to New Hampshire and visit him. I want to live in Florida. I want to go to the beach. I want to do some more things in my life, because part of my journey, my personal story, has been 3 decades of delayed gratification. I grew up unbelievably poor. My mom had a job that I can't say on YouTube because I don't want to get both their channels demonetized. Not mine. Maybe I could say it here. There was illegal things that happened in and around me. I did not have positive experiences with the police. Never thought I'd be a police officer. So I had this very, very, I grew up on like hot dogs and microwavable hot dogs and canned tuna. And a hot dog bun was a luxury I never knew till I was an adult. We just took bread and folded it in half. When Matt bought his Fiji water this morning, I judged him because I walked in there and they had Smart Water, they had Fiji. And I was like, where's the Dasani? Where's the Aquafina? Because I got to buy me some poor man's water. So yeah, like I want to live fat fire and live the life of luxury of Fiji waters. God forbid, maybe I'll find Voss,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
yeah. And how much was your water?
Okay, well, because I bought it from the Aria. The water was like $6.50.
Yeah.
But Matt's was like $8.50.
No, $7.25.
Okay,
yeah.
Whatever. Anyway. So the difference between lean fire is, yes, you are technically financially independent, retired early. You do not have to work anymore. And then there's fat fire, which is financially independent, retired early, and you get to live, and I don't want to say necessarily in excess, but you can do the things that you want, which is what I think of when I think of financial freedom.
I personally think everyone's goal should be fat fire, at least 4 times your living expenses.
Better safe than sorry.
I totally agree with that. There's like 7 tiers to fire, because it's a movement. It's not like, like they don't have fire memberships, right? It's financial independence, retire early. There's Coast Fire. That's where you invest in enough assets to where if you work just a kind of average job, you will have a great retirement because your assets will make you financially free by the time you retire. There's Barista Fire, where you can work part-time and live a frugal life. There's Lean Fi, where you work is optional. So now you can start looking for the job you want instead of the job you have to do. Then there's Fire, where, you have a couple times your living expenses coming. You found out what your freedom number is. You don't have to sell your life 1 hour at a time to get it. And then that Fat Fire thing, it's where eventually some of us feel stupid going to work because there's so much money coming in that you don't have to work for. That we've been in growth mode for decades. We've been like, okay, how do I get the promotion? How do I get the better job? How do I run the department? How do I grow the next thing? How do I get the next rental to, wow, I'm only going to be here on the upside maybe 100 years out of the billions that this rock's going to be spinning around in space. Maybe I should enjoy it. That was a subtle hint.
Yeah. I mean, and it's really funny. You'll probably eventually see me in a Home Depot plumbing department, helping people find stuff that they need to fix a leak. It's one of those things where and I'll probably do it part-time, but it's one of those things that I've always kind of enjoyed, was that there was always like guys that were there that weren't necessarily very good at it. And they're just like, where can I find a fitting reducer? I'm sorry, a what? Yeah, okay. And so it's one of those things that I think would be kind of fun to do, like part-time when I retire, is literally pick up, a shift every week or so at the Home Depot and work in the plumbing department and just help people fix their leaks. Yeah. So that would be what kind of fire is that? Lean? No, it's not.
That's I'm bored and went back to work.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you have to really be concerned about is, Zuber retired.
Yeah.
And about 6 months in, he said, all of his purpose had been coming from work.
Yeah.
And these are his words.
Yeah.
He said, I felt like a loser.
Yeah.
And so he was on the cusp of going back to work. And then he thought, well, I'll write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's other people who could do what I've done. And he found purpose in sharing his story.
Yeah.
So it's retire to something, not from something. What are you retiring to? To me, it's a lot of nothing. And I'm okay with that. Like, that's the goal. You said it last night. People don't understand the amount of lazy that actually exists in somebody who's really working hard to make the life where you can be lazy.
Yeah.
And lazy might just be spending a lot of time with your kid instead of at work.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. So what are you retiring to?
Yeah.
Dude, I will be father of the year, coach of all the sports. I'll spend a lot of time with my dude. I don't know about you guys, and I'm not going to get political, but I do not trust the government. I don't trust TV. I don't trust anybody. Everything out there is currently trying to program my 6-year-old child. And you've got young children too.
Yeah.
And Dion's kids are grown, and he always jokingly says, well, I was just hoping to get half of them to adulthood and still be alive. But like, it's your job to program them. And you're fighting against the Matrix, and you're fighting against Big Brother, and you're fighting against all of the media that's out there constantly. Like, no, I need more time with my kid to do stuff just him and me, or he's doomed nowadays. So that's what I will retire to.
My kids, if I retire, or when I retire, not if I retire, when I retire, it's they will spend that much more time in the business, quite frankly. I mean, they still do it now. We still do Saturdays and Sundays. It varies on the day, but we'll go out and we'll do some property checks or things that might be a project or whatever. We'll actually take the kids and we'll go in the car and we'll go pick up rent in some cases. We'll go check on something that was worked on that week. And so if you guys follow me on Instagram, you saw me standing in a huge pool of water in a basement after a massive rainstorm. Sammy was 6 feet, 8 feet off camera. And so I love doing that stuff with my son. Brandon, my second daughter, or my first daughter, she is the same way. And she's been on a number of those excursions with me. And so it will be one of those things where they don't have to do that when they grow older, but they will, when they're teenagers, they'll work in the business. They'll really understand when they're 18 years old, they don't have to stick around. They don't have to stay in the business, none of that stuff, but they are going to work as teenagers, and they are going to work in the business, and they will have a work ethic, and they will see what it takes to, maybe you want to run your own business, maybe you don't. I think the most important thing that I can give my kids is, when they become adults, is an understanding that they have a choice, that they can do what they choose to want, what they choose to do. But they do have to be a productive part. They have to be a productive part of society.
I like the sports ball guy
Yes.
who said, my kids aren't rich.
Shaq.
Yeah,
I'm rich.
Shaq said that.
Shaq said that. Yeah, for sure.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so it was really funny because when Ashley and I got married 15 years ago, that was one of the conversations we had when we were talking about kids. And I said, let's be very clear. You and I will be rich. And this is when we were poor. I said, you and I will be rich. Our kids will not be.
Yeah. Your kids will inherit something.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be their retirement plan.
No, it's definitely not.
That, right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a quick comment for Tony.
Yeah.
Howdy, Tony. With Dion and Mike in Vegas, does this mean I'm leading the Tacoma FI meeting with only my charisma? So here's the favor that I'm going to ask everybody watching either channel. Cody and Christian Multifamily Strategy is a YouTube channel here on YouTube, because that's where YouTube channels are, right? Go to their next video and leave a comment asking if they're coming to the Tacoma FI meeting, because Mike and Dion are in Vegas. And then ask them, here's the favor, ask them, why aren't they here? Why aren't they here?
Cody and Christian?
Yeah.
I feel spurned.
See, exactly.
They got
Ask them
invited.
that question. I know that, because it's gonna be, they didn't invite us. No.
No.
Go screenshot.
Cody's old enough to drink now, so
Right. Actually, and he just had a birthday
Right.
not too long ago. Another one. So
He's 22. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rude. And BF, I don't have any plans to sell my properties. When I get tired of managing them, I'll probably just hand them over to a property management company that I probably own.
And that references a question that I saw that I didn't get to is if you have property management, would you still use Hemlane or your service? You might use your service because of the tax info that's in there. I am going to do a video with Dana talking about how would Hemlane work if I switched to property management, because I haven't thought that far, because I'm like you, I don't ever plan on selling, but I might someday, but not today, switch to property management.
Yeah, most property managers want you on their platform. So
some of them suck.
Yeah.
Buildium, I hate
Oh,
Buildium.
don't say that.
Hate
No,
Buildium.
yeah. Honestly, I tried Buildium, didn't love it. But yeah, the other thing too, BF is structure. So my stuff is in a trust. So my kids are good. But thanks. But yeah, so that's why we structure the things the way that we do. But yeah, if I get tired of being in it, and I tell you, my grandfather, or Ashley's grandpa, my grandpa was 94 when he passed away. He still worked until 75. Even when he retired, he was still into stuff. I want to keep on using my brain. It's not something that's a tax. I can pick the things that I want to do. And do I expect to be knee deep in a basement at 75? Probably not.
Hopefully not.
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, I might do it for fun if I can't get somebody on the phone, but because I still enjoy being hands-on and doing that stuff if I have nothing else to do and the rest of the house is asleep. I think that's fun.
Yeah, we are on a spectrum.
Yes, we are.
And we're on opposite ends.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, I don't mind some of that stuff. So yeah.
Antoine, you asked how I'm enjoying Hemlane. If you compare it to QuickBooks, I would have switched to Hemlane. If you have a duplex. So with 16 units, 7 properties, Hemlane works great. If I had like 30 units or less, I'd probably stay on Hemlane. If I got to higher than that, where my tax system is one Excel spreadsheet, so I wouldn't even use QuickBooks. If you get larger than that, or you plan on getting larger than that, then what do you use again, Matt?
I use Doorloop.
Doorloop might be the better route.
Mhm.
So maybe price compare. If your plan is to have 30, 50, 100 units, but if your plan is to have 30 or less, Hemlane works great for me. I love the 3-tiered system. You get to increase it or decrease it when you want, based on what changes in your life. So yeah,
I would strongly encourage anybody. The mistake that honestly that I made is I knew I was going to, after the first few, I knew I was going to build a company, and I knew I was going to, buy more rentals, and that was going to be my thing, and how I retired and did whatever I want when that day comes. And I think the mistake that I made was was using other products, because that migration of data is a nightmare. It sucks. It's painful. It's expensive. And so the biggest advice that I would give, based on having grown the business to a certain size, I wish at 20 or 30 units that I had picked a product that I was going to be all in on and then never had to move data ever again. That was the mistake that I made. That was a mistake I made on the.
And that's why I say if you're planning at 30 or higher, yes. But if you're like me, I don't want that many. Like I don't even want 16 on some level, right?
100%.
So, and then All Nighter points out Cody's 23. I think 23 too. Yeah.
He was 23.
Although when you talk to him, it's like he's 40, right?
Yeah.
But, okay. I'm looking through questions. I don't think I missed any here.
I have one question. Somebody sent me on Instagram. Young lady named Kim.
Okay.
She's right now working in California. It's a really good paying job. She wants to move back to Bend, Oregon. Very expensive market. She wants to house hack. She's frustrated because she can't find any good deals in her area for house hacking. And so I told her that I'd bring this question up to you guys for you to just give some overall advice to what she might be able to do if it seems like she can't find anything that she can either afford or that pencils out for her, but she wants to get started house hacking.
So I have a friend, Jared, who purchased a duplex in Bend. And one of the good things to know is if you're owner occupying a small multifamily, the rent control might not apply. I won't say won't apply, might not apply, because you need to know the laws for your area. Talk to an attorney. For him, it doesn't apply. So that's one of the benefits to it. So the first question is, Kim, how are you looking for your deals? What asset class are you looking at? Are you looking at house hacking a house where you rent out by the room? That's very different than, are you looking for a house with an ADU? Are you even looking for houses with ADUs? Because a lot of investors go, I want small multifamily, which in their brain says duplex, triplex, or fourplex. So the question that came up earlier is, how do you find those? Is there a website you go to? All of my deals are from the MLS. So through agents, I have at least 3 agents with auto searches set up. There's not like, I don't use Realtor, I don't use Redfin, I don't use Zillow, I don't use any of those websites because that's dated information. All my stuff is from the MLS. You can do mailers, you can do driving for dollars, you can do what Cody and Christian do, where they find the owners, build a relationship on learning from them. Like they've got a great strategy. Like there's all kinds of ways. How are you looking? Because a lot of people say, I can't find deals, there's none there. How are you looking? And what are you looking for? If you're looking for small multifamily, is that what the search says? Small multifamily, duplex, triplex, fourplex? Because then you're missing, the listing agent might call a house with an ADU, property with a granny flat, or a mother-in-law house, or a JADU or DADU, accessory dwelling unit, auxiliary dwelling unit. We can't control what the listing agent's going to put it out there as. And then how are you not running the numbers on a house hack? A lot of people look at the house hack and they go, well, it's not going to give me the yield I'm at because I'm living there. That's not how it works, right? We run the numbers as if we had moved out and all of the units were rented. So if you're renting by the room, that room is rented. If you're doing a small multifamily, that unit is rented. And so that would be there'd be a lot of follow-up questions on what do you suggest, and then draw a circle from Bend, Oregon, or whatever city you're looking at moving into, if someone else, and draw that circle out. And eventually you find an equilibrium as prices and rents try to hit an equal state. And some areas like in Sacramento, it's 2.5 hours of circles out till you hit Fresno, where Zuber invests. For Seattle, it's you get into Pierce or Snohomish or what is Everett? Is that Snohomish? Okay, so you kind of grow out into you're out of King County by the time it starts to make sense. The more expensive the area, the more impactful and important house hacking is. So run the numbers like you're already out, even though you're living there. So you're not trying to figure out. When we run the numbers, we're not actually trying to figure out what's the dollar amount I'm going to make. That's the cash flow. Yes, we worry about that. We're looking at what's the yield, right? And what's the yield after I'm not living there? And what's the yield? Like a lot of people talk about your cost to acquire, but nobody runs the calculations planning on there not being a mortgage payment the first month you own a property. Right. So your cash flow is usually a little bit better than what you're expecting, but we don't run it that way. We want to run conservative numbers and make sure, because we're just trying to compare apples to apples as much as possible. What's the best deal to pursue out of the ones you're finding? So do you have multiple agents with searches set up? Because if you don't know what's on the market there. One agent is not going to send you all of the deals. They will eventually, right? If they stay on the market long enough to find you, but that might be an area where, like you said, the medium ones here in Vegas are just gone off the market quick. Yeah. The luxury sits longer and is seeing drops. So there's a lot of things to take you through there. Hopefully one of those helps you get to where you're going, and join local REI meetup groups and find out how the local investors are investing, because somebody is doing it successfully there. Yeah.
If you want to go kind of next level, Dion touched on it very briefly. It is, and I've done target stuff on this. You can actually get like Batch Leads is a phenomenal product. That's actually the one that Pace Morby and his crew use. But Batch Leads is an amazing product. You can actually get a trial. I would look in the area and I would do a lookup on dupes, tries, and quads, any owners that you have there. And then you can actually create a letter, send it out to them. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want to spend the money to do that. If you spend $200 or $300 finding a deal, that is awesome.
Right.
Like a legitimate opportunity at a deal. And then you can actually market to only the people that are dupes, tries, and quads, and see if you can potentially get an off-market deal, and you can create your criteria that says, I only want to do, people that have owned something for 20 years. So seller financing becomes an option. These are all fantastic things. And then Dion, I got a question or a comment on my channel that I think is silly. So let's do it.
Okay. Before we wrap up, though, I have one question from Tuesday.
Okay.
That I said, that's a Matt question. Let's do it here. And it came up today too. So
we'll do that for sure. BF says, terrible idea to start house hacking in 2023 when prices are going down.
I responded in the chat.
So BF's had some great questions today.
You want me to? You give me a second?
Well, because I don't want to.
It's just silly. I'll say it. It's offensive. It's silly. Multimillionaire, soon to be multimillionaire. All of us house hack.
Very close. Very close.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That video's coming.
But yeah, exactly. He's close. So we've all house hacked. You're wrong. Over any period of time, you're wrong. House hacking is by far the cheat code to wealth. It's better than any other real estate investment strategy, period, end of story. It's the best.
And the comment that I keep seeing is, while prices are coming down, show me that. Show me the price, the property that's worth what it was last year. I'll pay cash for it today. Like, that's not a thing. Yes, there are some of the big markets where we saw this huge spike where you can't find a cash flowing deal, even if prices came down 20%. Yeah, okay, those are probably going to come down. But that's like 98% of the market you're missing.
Right. And the fact is that person that's house hacking, they are qualified to buy a house hack. They are not qualified to buy a house that's not hacking. And that's the difference. It gets you on the ladder.
And the big stocks that make up the Fortune 500, like the top 10, are down 50%.
Yeah.
So is this the time to buy stocks? Because everybody's like, oh, it's got to go up. No, it doesn't. It can, right? And the projection that prices are coming down while we have the biggest inflation, and we just did another almost couple trillion dollar
1.7,
creation of currency that just didn't exist a month ago. About 80% of the currency, only 4% on paper or coin, right, exists from the last 2 years. More currency made in the last 2 years than the last 200. And people expect home prices to come down while building is still restricted, while cost of materials and supply chain issues still exist. So it's a good devil's advocate. So if that's what you were going with, great. Like, yeah, that's a bad idea. But if you're telling people not to house hack, because what's the better alternative?
Yeah.
To continue to pay for your own house,
right,
to pay rent. You're paying someone else's mortgage.
100%. So BF, I saw in the comments that you said you have a ton of cash flow. So here's what I think we should do. I'll put 10 grand in an escrow account. You put 10 grand in an escrow account. I will find somebody. In fact, if this girl wants help finding a place to house hack, I will help her find a place to house hack, and I will prove you wrong, and I will bang you up. And so we can go a 1 year period, a 2 year period, a 3 year period, whatever you'd like. And you can do, if you win, you can do what you want with that $10,000 that I put in the escrow account. You can give it to a charity if you want. If I get your $10,000, I'll take $1 out, I'll frame it, and the rest of the money I'll give away. But I'm more than happy to do that with you, because factually speaking, your math is wrong. It's just flat out wrong. There are too many people that can't get on the property ladder because they don't qualify without other incomes. And so house hacking is by far the cheat code to wealth. I've done it 9 times in 13 years. That helped me build the business as big as it did. And so if you are being devil's advocate, cool, that's fine. If you really believe that, then I'm more than happy to do a 10,000 escrow bet with you. And I'll help somebody find a house hack that just absolutely crushes, because the math over time, even if the market goes down 20%, it's not going to make a difference, because the people that are buying into a house hack are the first people that get disqualified by the banks, because they probably have too high of a DTI. They probably have not enough of an income, and they have to find some way to actually get on the ladder. And those are the types of products that disappear first. It's not linear. So I'm happy to go through that. But anything? Did you want to handle your other?
No, I have
Yeah,
another on this because
Yes.
that's a good comment.
Yeah.
If you're buying a house and you plan on moving in 6 months, you're going to be underwater, even if home prices are going up, because there's a cost of selling. So, right, if you're going to house hack short term, that's stupid. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But there is no point in history where purchasing a house and then 10 years later, you have not made money market wide. There are some places like where the cars moved away from. Detroit, right? So one manufacturing industry can decimate an area. Silicon Valley.com crash got hit hard, right? But if you have several different economic drivers, the base support, college, several different things in there, that's not going to happen in your market. If enough things happen in that market to cause that, you have bigger problems than your mortgages. Prices are on the way down, so it would be a bad idea to house hack, is a quote from this comment, right? That means in 2008, if somebody started house hacking in 2008, it was a bad idea. Honestly, right now, everybody watching this video, now or in Futureland, who wouldn't love to purchase a property at 2008 prices?
Yeah.
In your market, go right now, Google median home price, average home price, your area, 2008. By 2015, in 2013, most areas it was above that. 2015, it was above it everywhere. And as the years go by, that purchase price doesn't matter. It's to get on there to reduce or eliminate your largest expense. So house hacking makes sense in the worst year before the biggest decline. And for the last 10 years, consistently, every couple of weeks, there's been a reason for a housing crash. For the last 2 years, the crash bros have been screaming at the top of their lungs that a 20% crash is a month away or 2 months away. The largest decline in home prices market-wide in a century has been 8.9% in a 12-month period. And they're calling for 20% in a 2-month period. If you're watching those channels, you're filling your head with stupid. That doesn't make you stupid. It's you're filling your head with stupid.
Right.
Like, this has never happened. The 300 reasons they've said in the last 2 years haven't happened. But right now, it's got to happen. That's what it's felt like every 2 weeks. So, okay, I'm done with that one now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, so he posted something else. So I don't really care what your answer is, BF. If you know that it's such a loser, I'll bet you 10 grand. Let's do it. And we'll do it on the channel. We'll put it in front of everybody. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to put up 10 G's, put it in an escrow account. We can measure it over time, however you'd like.
I didn't get a chance to respond. BF.
Thank you.
Marina just closed on a duplex. My girlfriend Marina closed on her duplex December 17th of last year. So unless you're saying that there's been astronomical changes to the market in the last 3 weeks in 2023 versus December 17th, 2022. We got a video coming on my channel that shows all the numbers and everything like that, outlines, but it's a great deal. It's one of the best deals I've seen done in the Seattle area in a very long time. So when I said to you, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, maybe in your market, it's a terrible time to buy. I think that there's probably opportunities everywhere as people panic, but I don't know Vegas. But then you came back and said something about you're talking about all markets nationwide except for Pittsburgh. I don't know what Pittsburgh has going on that makes you happy about it.
The new 3% rent control, even on new builds. That's how stupid they went.
Wow.
Go ahead.
That's crazy.
Point is, in every single market in the country, there are people who are investing successfully and people who are not investing successfully. And to Matt's point, I guarantee you he can go find and negotiate a deal on an expert house hack in Dover, New Hampshire.
Mhm.
And to Dion's point, he can go find and negotiate an expert house hack that he was looking at last night in Tumwater, Washington. And I could find one in Gary, Indiana. They're out there if you connect with the right people. Or, you know what? Be a loser and don't.
Okay. Wandering Doc made a comment that I have to reference before I get to the question for Tuesday.
Okay.
He said, I can imagine making videos stating my net worth and then having one of my girlfriends or ex-girlfriends watching it would feel uncomfortable. It's a freaking amazing. I can't put it in any other words that my exes might have to. This is how petty I am. You know how you get those calls when you start to own properties, people call you and say, or text you, I want to buy your property, email you, or whatever. It's like, hang on. You're the wrong person. And I send my ex's contact info so that she constantly is reminded that
Damn it,
I don't have to
doing
work.
so well.
I know. Okay, so anyways, petty jokes aside, here's the question from Tuesday. How do I, as a new investor, get my first residential commercial property? And I thought, so since I haven't owned over 4 units on one property, I've only owned residential property. I'm not the guy to answer that question, but I know somebody who's owned more than 4 units on one property.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
what are the things you think about when you're buying that first residential, but commercial property?
Yeah. So the first thing is you want to talk to banks that understand your profile. There are prepare to be snootified. And that is a technical term. You have to understand that when you're talking about even a residential buy that's more than 4 units, so it's 5 or larger and it's considered commercial. Again, unless you're VA, and then VA you can do 5, but let's just call it 5 and larger unless you're VA. The thing that you'll have to remember is that typically that banker is used to having a conversation with somebody that's buying a real commercial unit that's usually millions and millions of dollars. Usually that's the case. The problem with that is you might have trouble getting them to actually engage with you, believe it or not. So what I would encourage you to do is have your complete profile of who you are, what your money is, what your income is, like have something built out where you can call and have a conversation with somebody and say, I wanted to call and introduce myself. This is basically generally, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And then if they say, and then you say, is that a type of loan that you would be interested in, or a type of loan that you guys would do? If they say yes, say, fantastic. Could I get your email address so I can kind of send you my particulars? And then would you just let me know in the next couple of days that if this is something you guys would like to pursue? What you'll find is that will save you a ton of time. It will make sure that you're aligning with the appropriate lender, and it will ensure that they know your story going in. So they're going to know not to ask, well, please send us your PFS. That's not going to apply there. You're buying your very first residential commercial property. So there's a lot of things like that if you set yourself up like that, now what you have to commit to is I would be looking at your local area. I would be looking at other banks, all the small banks, typically that have less than $2 billion AUM, assets under management. So, and you can find that online, just look around. But as you do that research, you'll probably, hit maybe 10, 12, 15, 20 banks. And then I would be having that conversation probably with a VP of lending. And you can look for who that person is. Look for the VP of lending for that organization. They're not all created equal. And that's how I would do that. I think that gives you your best chance at winning and getting the right partner for that deal.
And that's why I had Matt answer that question and not me. The one other thing to consider, if you're looking at commercial and you want to go up to 8 units or less. So the 4 unit is you're absolutely right. That's residential. And that's what I've done. Because the biggest determiner between me on residential versus commercial residential is fixed rate debt. I will not do balloon payments. I will not do adjustable rate mortgages. And so I've stayed at 4 units or less. But recently, Convoy Home Loans and I believe Velocity Mortgage have lending options on up to 8 units. That is 30 or 40-year fixed rate debt.
BF said he wants to join us for lunch. Apparently he lives in Vegas.
He does live in Vegas. Yeah, that's his market. We'll talk. We'll
send an Instagram DM.
Yeah, send a DM. We'll talk about it and we'll figure out what our plans are.
At Lumberjack Landlord.
Yeah, you can send it to lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com. And I promise we'll then talk about it. And I got to figure out what our plans are because I think we had some plans for the day, but maybe this week. So Mike wouldn't be there, but Dion and I.
Nobody likes me anyways.
That's not true. That's not true. He drastically brings up the pretty quotient. Let's try and go get arrested. To not get arrested.
Well, I know. That's on you guys. That's on you guys. I still need my jobs.
I was gonna say,
We're
yeah.
fixing it.
And,
Job.
yeah, and that'll happen soon enough. Guys, it's been awesome hanging out and doing this in Vegas. Now we got to do it more often. And if you guys also subscribe to Zuber's channel, because when we get to 50,000, party on Zuber.
Right. We get to spend more of Mike's money.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap up here and then we'll have closing comments on the Lumberjack Landlords channel. And I would say I would give away an hour of time, but I owe 3 right now, and that's way too much for my schedule. So if Phil, Tiffany, and is it Cody, I think is the third. I have memory issues. Let's get together and get those hours done. And then someone does this at the very end, and it always catches me.
Yeah, we're about to end the live
which is
stream
totally
on
great.
yours.
My
Jump to
problem
Matt's.
is with when I was doing a live stream one time and somebody super chatted at the end.
Yeah.
Like I hit the button, saw the chat. I
Yeah.
felt horrible at that because I get it. Here's a question from Frank.
Yeah.
Howdy, Frank. These are awesome, Matt. We need you at HD. They used to hire retired pros called homers.
That's right.
To work in plumbing and electrical, that new stuff. So McClendon's does that. And in our area, if you're shopping Lowe's and Home Depot, it's you.
Yeah.
And even finding somebody to help you know where it is in the store, it's you.
Yeah.
So you just grab a power tool, start doing something, they come and find you.
Yeah.
But McClendon's, you go in there, they know their stuff. That guy. I went in. That's why I came up with the idea of solving the issue with rodents constantly eating the drain lines because they were getting the plastic. Poison out, makes them thirsty. Did it again. And Lowe's and Home Depot, we have nothing for you. We have no way to fix it. You go to McClendon's and they're like, oh, you take this electric conduit, and you put the drain through there. And I was like, oh, you solved my problem. And it's in a situation where you can't even tip the guy. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, we need you to go and work at one of those.
I was, like I said, it's definitely something that's
go to Lumberjacks. We're still on his channel. Go to the Lumberjacks channel.
All right. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk. And it sounds so weird to do that when